Comrade Jiang is hemorrhaging, get the blood packs, stat, Comrade Jiang's will to live is fading, use the defibrillator to restart her heart, 3, 2, 1, clear. Through Jiang Yingshua's glazed eyes, she saw a flurry of medical staff swarming around her, every one of them frantic with urgency. A sharp, violent pain tore through her abdomen, and the weight she had carried for nearly 10 months was suddenly gone. The doctor said regretfully, "It's too late, the baby is gone." Jiang Yingshua's heart faltered, the monitor tracing a flat line before resuming a faint, weak beat. All the pain in her body vanished, and the cold operating table felt as soft as a cloud. "We did all we could, let Comrade Fu in to see Comrade Jiang one last time." The operating room door swung open, a tall, broad-shouldered man threw himself beside Jiang Yingxue, weeping uncontrollably as he begged, "Xiaxue, please don't leave me." Several young nurses couldn't hold back their tears. As Jiang Yingxue looked at the man she had loved for so many years, only now, at life's end, did she realize she had never truly seen him clearly. With a trembling hand, she reached up to touch Fu Anming's face and smiled. "Fu Anming," she whispered, "loving you is something I'll never regret." Fu Anming was choked up, unable to speak, yet Jiang Yingshue's next words were, "If there is a next life, I would not wish to marry you again." As her words and her hand fell, Jiang Yingxue closed her eyes forever. Fu Anming cried out in anguish, "No." Jiang Yingxue jolted awake from her nightmare, her nightgown soaked through with cold sweat. The moon hung high outside the window, illuminating the room. Red double happiness characters adorned the window and headboard, while the pillowcases and quilt were all a vibrant red, creating a scene of jubilant festivity. This was the staff housing allocated by the factory when she and Fu Anming had just gotten married. As if struck by a sudden realization, Jiang Yingxue turned on the light and sat down before the mirror. The woman in the reflection had skin as fair as snow, with eyes and brows brimming with youthful vitality, a world apart from the last image Jiang Yingxue had seen of herself. Could it be? "I've been reborn," Jiang Yingxue murmured to herself. She stood up and looked around the blissful bridal chamber. The pristine, beautiful wedding photo hanging above the headboard was just like the marriage Jiang Yingxue had once taken such pride in, yet reality delivered a brutal and unforgiving blow. In her past life, heavily pregnant, she had brought Dumplings to Fu Anming, who was supposedly working overtime during the new year, only to be told he had been on leave for 3 days. Thinking Fu Anming might be in some trouble he was afraid to tell her about, she called every friend she could think of. In the end, following a hint from a colleague, she arrived at a luxurious villa. On that snowy winter night, Jiang Yingxue had kept the dumplings tucked inside her coat to keep them warm, but the moment she saw the scene inside the house, the dumplings fell to the ground with a soft thud. Through the warm, glowing window of a charming house, Fu Anming, who had claimed to be working late, was cheerfully making dumplings in someone else's home. A woman wrapped her arms around him from behind, and as they exchanged a smile, they looked every bit the picture of a blissful little family. Devastated and disoriented, Jiang Yingxue wandered the streets, only to be struck by a car that suddenly swerved out. Blood streamed from between her legs, swiftly staining the snowy ground crimson. A neighbor rushed out at the commotion and cried, "Good heavens, whose pregnant woman is this? What a tragedy, to meet such a fate during the new year." Snowflakes swirled into Jiang Yingshue's eyes. The sharp, lingering pain seemed to cling to her very bones, sending an involuntary shiver through her body. When she looked up again, Jiang Yingshue's gaze was resolute. In her past life, she had vowed that if there were a next life, she would never marry Fu Anming again. Now, by heaven's grace, she had been given a second chance at life, and she was determined to cut her losses without delay. Early the next morning, Jiang Yingxue submitted her divorce application. On her way back, she happened to run into Fu Anming, who was just getting off work. "Xiaxue, aren't you off today? Why are you up so early?" He jogged over, smiling as he took Jiang Yingshue's hands in his and brought them to his lips to warm them with his breath. "You're not wearing enough. What if you catch a chill?" Jiang Yingxue looked at the young Fu Anming, a whirlwind of emotions passing through her heart, yet a lingering fondness remained. "I'm not cold." Fu Anming's gaze fell on the dark circles under Jiang Yingshue's eyes, and he frowned. "Did you not sleep well last night?" "Yeah, I had a bad dream," Jiang Yingxue murmured, lowering her head. Fu Anming chuckled, leaning in with a sly grin. "Was it because I wasn't there?" Blushing, Jiang Yingxue gave him a playful shove. "Don't be ridiculous." No sooner had she spoken than a few boisterous male voices chimed in, teasing, "Good morning, Director Fu." "Good morning, Mrs. Director." Jiang Yingxue and Fu Anming both looked over, and several colleagues quickly scurried away with a mix of laughter and sheepishness. Just wait until I get back, I'll make sure they stay late to run those experiments. Jiang Yingxue gave a light smile but didn't respond. Fu Anming glanced at her expression and asked cautiously, Xiaoxue, a girl from my old neighborhood wants to stay with us for a while, would that be alright with you? Jiang Yingshue's smile froze on her lips. Who is it? Fu Anming didn't object immediately. Instead, she waved to someone behind her. Xiaoqing, come and meet your sister-in-law. Following his gaze, Jiang Yingxue looked over, and the last trace of her smile vanished completely. The young girl running over from a distance had delicate, pretty features. Her large, sparkling eyes were particularly adorable. Su Xiaoqing threw herself directly into Fu Anming's arms and cooed sweetly. Brother, does this mean I can move in with you? Fu Anming awkwardly pushed her away. Xiaoxue, don't mind her. Xiaoqing is young and doesn't know any better. Unrelenting, Su Xiaoqing pressed herself against Fu Anming again, pouting like a child. Brother, I'm not a kid anymore. Fu Anming's slight embarrassment melted entirely into doting affection. He pinched Su Xiaoqing's cheek and chuckled. That's right, our Xiaoqing is all grown up now, about to take the college entrance exams. Only after receiving Fu Anming's response did Su Xiaoqing turn her gaze to Jiang Yingxue. Hello, sister-in-law. Sorry about that, I've always been a bit clingy with my brother since we were kids. I hope you don't misunderstand. Jiang Yingxue stared at the youthful face before her. It was the spitting image of the woman from that snowy night. In an instant, her eyes stung fiercely, and an unbearable ache welled up in her chest. So their affair had started all the way back then. For all those years, Fu Anming had kept her in the dark, weaving an intoxicating fantasy for her. Xiaoxue, would you let Xiaoqing stay with us? She's come all this way to find me, leaving her home behind, and with no one to look after her. I'm really worried. Seeing her displeased expression, Fu Anming quickly embraced her to soothe her, saying, but don't worry, even if my sister comes, you will always be the one and only first in my heart. Jiang Yingxue lowered her head, afraid that if she looked at Fu Anming for one more second, the tears in her eyes would fall. Alright, Fu Anming was overjoyed. Xiaoxue, I knew you were the most understanding. Watching Su Xiaoqing joyfully throw herself into Fu Anming's arms, Jiang Yingshue's heart was flooded with bitterness. The 10 years of genuine devotion given to her, and the child who had been wrongfully lost on New Year's Eve. The next morning, as the heavy snow finally ceased, Jiang Yingxue was awakened by the clattering sounds coming from the kitchen. As she stepped out of the room, she saw two figures standing unusually close in the kitchen. Su Xiaoqing peeled a boiled egg and held it to Fu Anming's lips. After he took a bite, she bashfully ate the remaining half. The red double happiness character on the stove pierced Jiang Yingshue's eyes like a silver needle. For a fleeting moment, she felt as though the newlyweds were Fu Anming and Su Xiaoqing. Xiaoxue, you're awake. Fu Anming caught sight of Jiang Yingxue in his peripheral vision and immediately took a step back, putting distance between himself and Su Xiaoqing. A flicker of annoyance passed through Su Xiaoqing's eyes, but she quickly masked it with a sweet smile. Sis-in-law, I'm off to school today. Brother got up early just to make me breakfast. You're so lucky to have married him. I hope to find a man just like my brother someday. Fu Anming affectionately ruffled her hair. You're a little one with a big mouth, teasing your own brother now, are you? Su Xiaoqing made a face, then scooped a full bowl of hot porridge and walked towards Jiang Yingxue. Here, sis-in-law, let me serve you breakfast. The phrasing made Jiang Yingxue frown. No, thank you. As if she hadn't heard, Su Xiaoqing stubbornly pressed closer, thrusting the bowl of scalding porridge almost into Jiang Yingshue's face, forcing her to lean aside. The next moment, a loud clatter rang out as the bowl of hot porridge spilled all over the floor. Su Xiaoqing immediately clutched her ankle and began to cry. Hearing the noise, Fu Anming rushed over to Jiang Yingxue first, anxiously checking if she was hurt. Just as Jiang Yingxue was about to speak, Su Xiaoqing cut her off. Sis, I was just trying to bring you the porridge. If you didn't want it, you could have just told me. Why did you have to push me? At these words, Fu Anming's expression changed abruptly. When did I push you? Jiang Yingxue looked at her, utterly bewildered. Su Xiaoqing gritted her teeth and looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. Sister-in-law, if you didn't push me, are you suggesting I overturned the bowl and scalded myself on purpose? What? You're scalded? Let me see. Fu Anming immediately scooped Su Xiaoqing up and carefully placed her on a chair. The skin around both her ankles was already red and swollen from the burn. Leaning against Fu Anming's shoulder, Su Xiaoqing sobbed. Brother, it hurts, Fu Anming said with eyes full of concern. Don't be scared, I'll take you to the hospital. Just as he was carrying Su Xiaoqing and running out the door, his steps suddenly halted. He turned back to look at Jiang Yingxue, who was standing still, and said in a complicated tone, "You can clean up the spilled porridge yourself." The cold distance in his tone was something Jiang Yingxue had never felt in 2 lifetimes, causing her to freeze in place. Jiang Yingxue clutched the fabric over her chest, trying to ease the dull ache in her heart, but accidentally aggravated the burn on her abdomen. That bowl of porridge had been deliberately tipped in her direction by Su Xiaoqing, and now a clump of rice grains was still stuck to her clothes. Yet Fu Anming didn't even glance at her. Just because Su Xiaoqing cried out in pain first and played the victim, he had already decided it was her fault. With tears in her eyes, Jiang Yingxue took out the first aid kit to tend to her wounds when the landline phone in the living room began to ring. "Hello, is this Comrade Jiang Yingxue? The grounds for the divorce application you submitted are insufficient. We've spoken with people in your community, and there's no indication of any serious issues in your relationship. Marriage is not a trivial matter. We hope you won't act rashly, Comrade Jiang." The divorce report submitted yesterday cited irretrievable breakdown of the relationship, yet everyone knew just how deeply in love they were. Jiang Yingxue glanced around the silent house, then lifted the receiver and dialed a Beijing number. "Sweetheart, what a surprise to hear from you." The call was answered almost immediately, and a familiar, affectionate voice came through the line. Jiang Yingxue's heart ached with a deep, dull pain as she remembered her previous life, when she had died without even getting to see her father one last time. "Dad, could you do me a favor?" "Oh, sweetheart, why are you crying? Tell your old dad what you need, and I'll make it happen." Jiang Yingxue sniffled and said, "I've submitted a divorce application. Could you help get it approved for me?" "What's wrong, sweetheart? Did that good-for-nothing Fu Anming do something to upset you, Dad?" "I can't tell you just yet," Jiang Yingxue pleaded. "Please, for the first time in my life that I'm asking you for a favor, help me." A sigh came from the other end of the line. "Alright, resubmit the application. If the documents are genuine, they'll be approved in 5 days, but I have one condition. After the divorce is finalized, I'll send someone to bring you home." "Alright, I promise." Fu Anming and Su Xiaoqing didn't return until 7 in the evening. Seeing the entire house shrouded in darkness, his heart tightened with worry. He quickly pushed open the bedroom door and called out, "Xiaoxue." Jiang Yingxue was asleep in bed. Moonlight streamed in through the window, illuminating her fair and lovely profile. Without thinking, Fu Anming reached out and gently stroked her hair, his voice soft. "Xiaoxue, time to get up for dinner." Jiang Yingxue's eyelashes fluttered as she awoke from her dream, seeing the person before her. She was visibly taken aback for a moment. "Still sleepy? Come on, get up. I packed your favorite Miling congee for you." Fu Anming coaxed her out of bed as he always did, helping her get dressed and put on her shoes. Acting as if the morning's incident had never happened, Jiang Yingxue looked down at the handsome man carefully cradling her foot. Suddenly, she remembered when she first arrived in the Northwest, she had sprained her ankle while helping with flood relief efforts in the countryside. Back then, Fu Anming had also knelt in the mud to examine her injury, and without a care for the onlookers, had carried her all the way back to the medical station. A wave of tenderness washed over Jiang Yingxue as sweet memories of the past surfaced. She was just about to lean down and embrace Fu Anming when the half-closed door suddenly swung open. Su Xiaoqing limped in, saying, "Sis, come out and eat. Brother and I already tried the Miling porridge, it's delicious." Fu Anming blinked nervously, trying to talk over Su Xiaoqing. "Xiaoxue, let me fry you an egg instead." Jiang Yingxue gently brushed his hand away. "That won't be necessary. I'm not hungry." Before Fu Anming could respond, Su Xiaoqing spoke up first. "Sis, do you think it's gross because it's leftovers from me and brother? But we were really careful. We didn't get any of our spit in the rest of the porridge." Her eyes welled up as she spoke. "I know you don't like me, but for my brother's sake, could you please stop targeting me?" Jiang Yingxue frowned. She had only said 6 words, so how had that prompted such a long-winded response? "I barely know you, so like or dislike doesn't really come into it." Jiang Yingxue told it straight. "But for someone so young, you certainly know how to sow discord between a married couple. I wonder what kind of books you've been reading." Su Xiaoqing's face flushed crimson, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. Fu Anming frowned disapprovingly and called out Jiang Yingxue's name. "I understand now. My sister-in-law must have seen how much my brother dotes on me and misunderstood our relationship, but I'm just a schoolgirl. For her to think of me that way." How am I supposed to face anyone after this? With that, she ran out of the room, weeping. Fu Anming took a few hurried steps after her, only to walk straight into the door as it was slammed shut in his face. He walked back into the room with a stormy expression. Xiaoxue, he accused. I've already explained it to you. Xiaoqing is just like a little sister to me from back home. There's nothing between us. Why do you always have to be so awful to her and embarrass her like that? She lost her parents when she was young and has had such a hard life. Shouldn't you be more kind and understanding towards her? He looked at Jiang Yingxue with profound disappointment. You used to be the gentlest, kindest girl. What happened after we got married to make you so bitter? A bitter taste rose in Jiang Yingxue's throat. Me, harsh, she retorted. Fu Anming raised a hand in a stop gesture. I don't want to argue. Just put on your coat and come with me to find her and apologize. It's past 8. If something happens to Xiaoqing, a young girl out there all alone, I what? Fu Anming didn't answer. But the look he gave her over his shoulder was utterly frigid. Jiang Yingxue gave a bitter smile. I can go look for it, but you need to sign this first. Fu Anming took it and saw, to his shock, that it was a divorce agreement. A furious, incredulous laugh escaped him. Jiang Yingxue, your usual tantrums are one thing, but at a time like this, are you really going to be this petty? A life is on the line, don't you understand? Jiang Yingxue simply looked at him. Will you sign it or not? Fu Anming could no longer contain the fury burning inside him. He snatched up a pen, scrawled his signature at the very bottom of the agreement, crumpled the paper into a ball, and hurled it at Jiang Yingxue. Happy now, on a snowy winter night. Before Jiang Yingxue could even fasten her coat, Fu Anming dragged her out into the blizzard. The rough fabric scraped against the burn on her abdomen, sending waves of searing pain through her. Jiang Yingxue hadn't eaten all day, her face deathly pale, yet Fu Anming didn't spare her a single glance, his pace only quickening as he ran. Jiang Yingxue finally couldn't take it anymore. Anming, slow down, she pleaded. I've searched everywhere. How can you say I'm slow? Fu Anming snapped at her without a second thought. In the heavy snow, Jiang Yingxue looked at the man before her. His eyes bloodshot with desperation, and suddenly all the strength drained from her body. Seeing the look on her face, Fu Anming felt a pang of regret. I'm sorry, Xiaoxue. I promised her father I would take good care of her. A wave of desolation washed over Jiang Yingxue. If you promised her family you'd look after her, then why did you have to come and mess with me? She sighed. Fu Anming, before she could finish. Fu Anming ran straight past her and pulled a petite figure into a tight embrace. Xiaoqing, where have you been? You scared me to death. Su Xiaoqing nestled in Fu Anming's arms. I thought you weren't coming for me. How could that be? Didn't I promise I'd protect you for a lifetime? Jiang Yingxue stared blankly at the two figures locked in an embrace, the words Fu Anming had just spoken ringing with a strange familiarity in her heart. It took her a long moment to remember. It was the very vow he had made when he proposed to her. She let out a bitter laugh. So Fu Anming's love, it turned out, was not hers alone. He had given it just as freely to another woman. Jiang Yingxue had too much pride in her life. If she couldn't have him all to herself, she'd rather not have him at all. Fu Anming, let's get a divorce. After Su Xiaoqing returned home, she was sobbing uncontrollably. Fu Anming spent the whole time comforting her and making her ginger tea, not returning to their room until 11 o'clock. The moment he saw Jiang Yingxue still sitting upright by the bed, a throbbing pain shot through his temples. Xiaoxue, can we please stop this? Let's just go to sleep. Jiang Yingxue turned her head to look at him. What did I say? Was I the one making a scene this whole time? Fu Anming wearily rubbed his temples. The thought of Jiang Yingxue giving him that fake divorce agreement today gave him a headache. Do you always have to be so confrontational? I'm exhausted. I just want to get some proper rest. If you really can't stand Xiaoqing, how about I rent her an apartment outside once I have the time? Jiang Yingxue found it rather absurd. She had done nothing from start to finish, yet Fu Anming, without a second thought, blamed all the recent turmoil squarely on her. That won't be necessary. Once we're divorced, she can stay as long as she likes. Fu Anming's expression changed. You'd divorce me over something this trivial. Xiaoxue, what do you take all our years together for? Jiang Yingxue said coolly, you were the one who first treated our bond as nothing. Fu Anming gathered his patience, sat down close to Jiang Yingxue, and gently drew her into his arms. Xiaoxue, I was too impatient with you today. I was wrong. Will you forgive me? I will only ever love you in this lifetime. In Fu Anming's heart, there is only Jiang Yingxue. In the past, Fu Anming's sweet words would have made Jiang Yingxue feel like she was walking on air, but now, having seen how he treats Su Shaoqing, she could only feel disgust, but for now, she didn't want to argue anymore. The divorce application had been resubmitted anyway, and she would file the agreement tomorrow. It wouldn't be long before their marriage was officially dissolved. After that one incident, Su Shaoqing had quieted down considerably. To avoid running into them, Jiang Yingxue worked late every day, hoping to get through the next few days peacefully, but Su Shaoqing had other plans. One day, just after her early shift ended, Jiang Yingxue was heading to the cafeteria with a few colleagues when Su Shaoqing stopped her. Jiang Yingxue was puzzled. This is a restricted factory area. How did you get in without a pass? Su Shaoqing didn't say a word. Instead, she dropped to her knees with a heavy thud, kowtowing and pressing her forehead hard against the floor. Sister-in-law, I know I was wrong. Please, don't let my brother throw me out. Okay. The people coming and going immediately halted in their tracks, turning to look with expressions of utter shock. Jiang Yingxue was so angry she almost laughed. Su Shaoqing, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never once said you should be thrown out. If you want to put on a show, go do it at the opera troupe in the Southern District. Sister-in-law, you and my brother just got married. It's only natural you'd be upset that I'm suddenly intruding on your newlywed life. You can hit me or scold me all you want, but I'm begging you, please don't make me leave. My brother is the only one I have to rely on. Su Shaoqing wept pitifully, her little face smudged and grimy, a sight that would move anyone to pity. Sure enough, a few young men walked over and tried to help her up. Comrade, please stand up first. Let's talk this through properly. Su Shaoqing shook her head. No, I won't get up until sister-in-law forgives me. Jiang Yingxue didn't want to deal with her and simply turned to leave. Su Shaoqing rushed over and clung to her leg. Sister-in-law, I'm begging you on my knees. How can you be so heartless? Are you trying to drive me to my death? Jiang Yingxue couldn't believe a girl could be so shameless. As more and more people gathered, their hushed whispers grew louder. What's going on here? Didn't Comrade Jiang just marry Comrade Fu? Comrade Jiang is such a good person. How could she force a young woman to kneel? There must be some misunderstanding. Should we go and get Comrade Fu? Jiang Yingxue had had enough. She tried to pull her foot away to break free, but Su Shaoqing suddenly let out a cry and fell to the ground with a thud, before anyone could react. A tall figure pushed through the crowd and strode in. Jiang Yingxue, what are you doing? Jiang Yingxue looked up and met a pair of eyes blazing with fury. It's all right, brother, I'll do anything, as long as I can earn sister-in-law's forgiveness. Su Shaoqing raised herself up, revealing a sleeve stained with seeping blood. Fu Anming's gaze froze. He carefully helped Su Shaoqing to her feet, his eyes filled with heartache. How did you fall so badly? Su Shaoqing hung her head, tears falling silently, and offered no reply. Fu Anming felt even more upset. He turned to Jiang Yingxue and said, is this how a sister-in-law should act? I don't expect you to treat Shaoqing kindly, but you keep pushing your luck. She was scalded yesterday and fell today. How am I supposed to explain this to her parents? Jiang Yingxue looked at him calmly. Why don't you mention that she trespassed into the factory grounds to harass me? Trespassed? I gave her a pass, Fu Anming said, looking at her with disappointment. I asked her to come invite you home for dinner, to try and mend our relationship. Jiang Yingxue gave a faint smile. To invite me home for dinner, yet the moment she saw me, she knelt down without a word, begging for my forgiveness out of the blue and making a spectacle of herself. Is that your idea of mending our relationship? Fu Anming was taken aback and looked down at Su Shaoqing. Su Shaoqing sniffled and said in a fragile voice, I was afraid sister-in-law wouldn't want anything to do with me. Fu Anming frowned. Causing such a scene at the factory wasn't right of you either. I'm sorry, brother, I was wrong. I won't dare do it again. Su Shaoqing apologized, her eyes red. Fu Anming didn't speak, but his gaze drifted toward Jiang Yingxue. Su Shaoqing immediately said, I'm sorry, sister-in-law. It was thoughtless of me to cause you trouble. Watching their little back-and-forth performance, Jiang Yingxue found it utterly tedious. She turned to continue walking toward the cafeteria. Where do you think you're going? Fu Anming immediately reached out to stop her. Let's eat. We'll eat at home. Jiang Yingxue gave a cold smile. That won't be necessary. Let's not ruin everyone's meal. Fu Anming pressed his lips together, noticing the onlookers hadn't dispersed. What are you all staring at? Go on, get your lunch. Ignoring Jiang Yingxue's protests, he pulled her along toward the house. Fu Anming, let go of me, then come home with me for dinner. With a cold expression, Jiang Yingxue pulled her hand back, straightened her clothes. and walked off without so much as a glance at Fu Anming. A 3-course meal with soup was already laid out on the dining table at home, all dishes Jiang Yingshue's favorites. Ever since Fu Anming started pursuing Jiang Yingxue, he had been diligently honing his cooking skills over the course of a year. He worked his way through all 8 major Chinese cuisines, finally figuring out her taste preferences. It was only after they got together that Fu Anming told Jiang Yingxue about this. Jiang Yingxue laughed at him for being silly, saying, "You could have just asked me directly, couldn't you?" Fu Anming held her hand, scratching the bridge of his nose sheepishly. "Xiaoxue," he said, "I want to discover everything about you for myself." But now that Su Xiaoqing had appeared, Fu Anming only listened to her. He even thought Jiang Yingshue's explanations were just her being stubborn. "Sis, you like scrambled eggs with tomatoes just like I do," Su Xiaoqing said with feigned intimacy. "Brother makes the best scrambled eggs with tomatoes. You should have a lot later." Jiang Yingxue looked at Fu Anming's face and said, "I used to like it, I don't anymore." Fu Anming's expression changed, his voice softening. "Xiaoxue, don't joke like that. Didn't you once say you wanted to eat my scrambled eggs with tomatoes for the rest of your life?" Jiang Yingxue didn't answer. She served herself some rice, ate in silence, and then went straight to her room to rest. A moment later, Fu Anming followed her in. He lay down beside her, wrapped his arm around her waist, and said plaintively, "Xiaoxue, I'm sorry. It's my fault for not making things clear to Xiaoqing. I've caused you trouble." His hand pressed against Jiang Yingshue's injured spot, the sudden pain making her flinch. "What's wrong, Xiaoxue? Are you cold? Here, let me warm your feet for you." As he said this, he sat up and cradled Jiang Yingshue's cold feet against his chest. Seeing a slight softening in her eyes, he smiled. "Xiaoxue, let's have a little girl in the future. One who looks just like you. So all the men at the factory will envy me." Jiang Yingshue's eyelashes fluttered as she remembered the child from her past life, the one who had died tragically on New Year's Eve because of Fu Anming's infidelity. She wondered how Fu Anming from that past life had reacted when he finally learned the truth. Should he grieve for a while and then be with Su Xiaoqing, or spend the rest of his life in remorse and suffering, watching Fu Anming lost in his blissful fantasy? Jiang Yingshue's expression grew colder and colder. "Fu Anming, you don't deserve to have children in this lifetime." As the year drew to a close, the factory, in a spirited response to the call for physical fitness, replaced its annual spring festival gala with a weighted hike. Not only could employees bring their families, but the event was also open to public registration. The trendy event drew a crowd of students to sign up, and Su Xiaoqing was, unsurprisingly, among them. Whenever there were items to be handed out, Fu Anming would always think of Jiang Yingxue first, but this time, when he picked up the weighted pack, he handed it to Su Xiaoqing without a second thought. Su Xiaoqing turned around coquettishly and said, "Big brother, help me put it on." Fu Anming looped the straps around her arms, adjusted the fit, and asked, "Too tight?" Su Xiaoqing laughed, "With you helping me personally, it's not tight at all." Fu Anming nodded, then turned and suddenly met a pair of calm, unreadable eyes. He forced a smile, his tone ingratiating. "Xiaoxue, it's Xiaoqing's first time at this kind of event. She doesn't know the ropes, so I helped her first." Jiang Yingxue walked right past him, picked up her bag, and slung it over her own shoulder. Watching the girl's resolute and decisive retreating figure, she hadn't said a word, much less made a scene like she had the previous 2 days. Yet, for some reason, Fu Anming felt a heavy, stifling sensation in his chest. The hiking route was only 10 kilometers long, mostly over flat terrain, with the endpoint right beside Tianhu Lake at Mount Luo. At first, the students were chattering excitedly, full of energy, but by the halfway point, they were already starting to wilt. A female colleague who was close with Jiang Yingxue pulled her aside and said with a laugh, "Don't they remind you of us on our first hiking trip?" Jiang Yingxue took a look, and sure enough, she couldn't help but let a smile touch her eyes. "Back then, when you almost tripped, Comrade Fu, who was ahead, instantly rushed to your side. The look on his face was even more terrified than yours." The colleague continued, "Afraid you might have another mishap. He gave up his position as the leader and stayed at the very back of our group, keeping an eye on us." Jiang Yingxue cherished every single thing Fu Anming had ever done for her, holding them close to her heart. Having seen how fervently he had loved her, she also knew that his feelings for Su Xiaoqing were definitely more than just brotherly affection. The procession came to a sudden halt as Fu Anming at the front crouched down, and another familiar figure beamed with a smile before climbing onto his back. Right in front of everyone, Fu Anming hoisted Su Shaoqing onto his back, unaware of Fu Anming's relationship with Jiang Yingxue. The students immediately erupted in cheers and playful teasing. Su Shaoqing's cheeks flushed a bright pink. "It's because my foot hurts, no need to explain, we get it." Su Shaoqing shot her classmates a mock reproachful look before happily resting her head on Fu Anming's shoulder. Fu Anming simply listened to her with a smile, offering no comment on the student's misunderstanding. A colleague immediately spoke up in her defense. "Comrade Fu, what are you doing? If anyone's getting a piggyback ride, it should be you," Jiang Yingxue replied with a light tone. "It's fine, who he carries is his own choice." It was noon by the time they reached Tianhu Lake. After the factory director announced a rest stop, everyone set to work, pulling out their gear to prepare a meal. Jiang Yingxue set down her pack and headed into the woods to gather firewood. Noticing this, Su Shaoqing quickly followed. "Sis, let me give you a hand." Jiang Yingxue glanced at her but said nothing. After putting some distance between themselves and the crowd, Su Shaoqing spoke slowly. "Jiang Yingxue, you can't win against me, because I have far too many advantages over you." Bored, Jiang Yingxue crouched down, picking up dry twigs from the ground in silence. Seeing her speechless, Su Shaoqing grew even more smug. A smirk played on her lips as she said, "Let me be frank with you, I know what the future holds, I even know exactly when you're going to die." With a clatter, the branch in Jiang Yingxue's hand fell to the ground. "What did you say?" Thinking she had scared her, Su Shaoqing gave a provocative smile. "You'll die in a car accident within 3 years." A loud buzzing filled Jiang Yingxue's head. She jerked her head up to stare at Su Shaoqing. "So she was a reincarnator too, and after you died, my brother made me his lawful wife in a proper ceremony, completely taking your place." Su Shaoqing's tone was venomous. "No matter how much you cling to him, all you'll ever get is a handful of spirit money from him on Qingming Festival. I'm the one who will be by his side for his entire life." Although Jiang Yingxue had a premonition about the outcome of her past life, hearing Su Shaoqing lay it out so bluntly still filled her heart with a wave of desolate sorrow. Does Fu Anming feel no remorse whatsoever for her and their child? "Jiang Yingxue, if you know what's good for you, you'll divorce my brother immediately, it might just save your life." Jiang Yingxue composed herself and feigned disbelief. "If you're delusional, have Fu Anming take you to the hospital, threatening me with predictions of the future to make me leave. Don't you think that's childish?" A flicker of malice passed through Su Shaoqing's eyes. "Believe it or not, don't come crawling to me on your knees begging for help later." Jiang Yingxue picked up the branch, turned, and walked away, with Su Shaoqing following closely behind her. Along the wooded lakeshore were several large holes smashed open by students. The thin ice at the edges was cracked like a spider's web, revealing the dark, unfathomable water below. "Jiang Yingxue, if we both fell in, who do you think brother would save first?" Su Shaoqing murmured in a low, unsettling voice. A knot of instinctive dread tightened in Jiang Yingxue's chest, and she instinctively tried to back away. "What are you trying to do?" But Su Shaoqing just let out a light laugh, tossed aside a branch, and lunged at Jiang Yingxue. "Watch out, sister-in-law, I'm coming to save you." With a splash, the icy lake water swallowed Jiang Yingxue whole. The biting cold instantly numbed her limbs, rendering her unable to even struggle, while a searing, tearing burn erupted in her lungs. The last thing she saw was a familiar figure swimming towards her. It was Fu Anming. Jiang Yingxue struggled to reach out to him, her mouth opening to call his name, but in the next instant, he reached out and grabbed the desperately struggling Su Shaoqing. Helplessness and despair consumed Jiang Yingxue's mind, and she closed her eyes in resignation. In the illusory darkness, Jiang Yingxue fell into a long, deep dream. She dreamed of the first time Fu Anming asked her out to the movies, presenting her with a bouquet of vibrant, dazzling red roses in the manner of a Western gentleman. On the day she agreed to date Fu Anming, he was so excited he couldn't sleep. He bought breakfast and waited for her to wake up. Standing downstairs at her dormitory, he said his dream was to buy a camera, to record every single day they spent together, so that when they grew old, they could show the photos one by one and tell their stories to their children and grandchildren. Yet, after all those heartwarming scenes, what followed was the sight of the silver-haired Fu Anming and Su Shaoqing strolling hand in hand through the park, while Jiang Yingxue had forever become just a photograph on a tombstone. "Daddy, save me." A single tear traced a path down Jiang Yingxue's cheek as she awoke, her eyelashes fluttering. "Xiaoxue, you're finally awake. Thank goodness, thank goodness." Fu Anming rushed over immediately, his eyes filled with fear and concern. Jiang Yingxue found it laughable. You were the one who chose to save Su Shaqing back then. What's with this act of deep affection in front of me now? Seeing Jiang Yingshua's complete lack of reaction, Fu Anming knew in his heart that she was aware of his choice to save Su Shaqing. He could only stammer out a panicked explanation. Xiaoxue, I made a mistake. I truly intended to save you first. Listening to this utterly flimsy excuse, Jiang Yingxue realized for the first time just how skilled a liar Fu Anming was. It's fine, she said flatly. Fu Anming was taken aback, surprised that Jiang Yingxue was being so reasonable and wasn't pressing the matter. Xiaoxue, you forgive me. I knew it, you understand me best. Jiang Yingxue then cut in, her tone calm as she said, Fu Anming, I've already filed for divorce. Fu Anming froze, staring at Jiang Yingxue in disbelief. What? Xiaoxue, that wasn't real, was it? Why, I've always been serious. And as for the reason, I don't believe for a second you don't know. Fu Anming's face turned deathly pale. I've explained this to you so many times. There is absolutely nothing between me and Su Shaqing. Jiang Yingxue gave a wry, twisted smile. Say it often enough, and you start to believe your own lies, don't you? Fu Anming's expression darkened completely. If you insist on viewing my relationship with her through such a filthy lens, then so be it. If you want a divorce, then get one. Jiang Yingxue, I'm very disappointed in you. With that, Fu Anming stormed out of the hospital room, his face like thunder. Jiang Yingxue looked at the empty room, yet her mood was surprisingly light. She touched her throat, where the raw, choking pain of drowning still seemed to linger. With just 5 days left until the divorce papers were finalized, she would soon be her old self. Jiang Yingxue, again, after their unpleasant parting that day, Fu Anming, true to form, never visited the hospital room again. However, he had a colleague from the factory deliver meals to Jiang Yingxue every day. Jiang Yingxue didn't touch a single one of those meals, no matter how thoughtfully prepared they appeared. Having made up her mind to leave, she would no longer cling to any memory of Fu Anming. Before being discharged, a nurse came for her final checkup, and she unexpectedly passed by Su Shaqing's hospital room. Su Shaqing lay in the hospital bed, while Fu Anming held a bowl, carefully blowing on each spoonful of soup before feeding it to her. The sunlight fell upon the two of them, and to any onlooker, they appeared to be a blissful young couple. Brother, you've been staying with me for the past few days. Don't you think it might make your wife even more suspicious of us? Fu Anming fell silent for a moment. The thought of Jiang Yingxue tricking him into signing that document made his anger flare up again. I'm doing this precisely to cure her of this baseless jealousy. We haven't been married that long, and she's already like this. How are we supposed to spend the next few decades together? Jiang Yingxue found the whole situation rather amusing. For the next few decades, you just focus on living a good life with Su Shaqing. Brother, I know you're worried about your wife deep down. Don't say such angry things. You should go see her. Su Shaqing said with feigned concern. Then covered her mouth and coughed. I'll be fine on my own. Fu Anming quickly patted her back. It's alright. I'll go pick her up tomorrow after she's discharged. I'll buy her a new dress then, and everything will be fine. Having not visited for several days, Fu Anming didn't even know that Jiang Yingxue could be discharged early. Jiang Yingxue didn't look back. She turned and walked out of the hospital. Today was the day to collect the divorce certificate. Jiang Yingxue went to the Civil Affairs Bureau first. The moment she held those 2 green pieces of stiff paper in her hand, it was finally, completely over between her and Fu Anming. Many of the items in the family room had been chosen and purchased by the two of them together. The day before their wedding, Jiang Yingxue sat at the desk cutting paper decorations, while Fu Anming pasted them one by one onto the windows and doors. Jiang Yingxue took down the wedding photo from the headboard, cut out her own half, and then pulled out from the cabinet the letters she and Fu Anming had exchanged over the years. Every word in them was imbued with the fiery passion of her youth. She casually picked up a letter, and upon reading the first line, the soft light in her eyes froze abruptly. My dearest Shaqing, I trust this letter finds you well and brings a smile to your face. With trembling hands, Jiang Yingxue opened another letter. Comrade Jiang Yingxue, I hope this letter finds you in good spirits. The stark contrast in the wording of the 2 letters struck Jiang Yingxue like a thunderbolt, fighting back a wave of nausea, her eyelashes fluttering. The last shred of nostalgia she held for the past turned to dust and vanished. Before dawn the next day, Jiang Yingxue placed the divorce certificate on the table, picked up her luggage, and headed to the factory to bid farewell to everyone. Their years together had fostered deep bonds, and everyone was reluctant to see her go. they pulled at Jiao Ningxue, insisting on sharing one last meal together. But before Jiao Ningxue could respond, a figure swept in like a whirlwind. Jiao Ningxue, why didn't you tell me you were checking out early? Do you have any idea how frantic I was when I walked into your room and found it empty? Fu Anming strode in, his long legs covering the distance, and immediately launched into a scolding. Jiao Ningxue looked at him, her face expressionless. I didn't see you. How was I supposed to tell you? I was right downstairs. Waity. Fu Anming cut himself off. Never mind, let's just go home. He reached for Jiao Ningxue's hand, but she took a step back, evading his touch. Fu Anming's hand suddenly felt empty, and an inexplicable panic washed over him. What's wrong? Xiaoxue, Anming, I. Before she could finish, someone shouted urgently from not far away, Director Fu, there's an emergency meeting with the city officials. The factory manager wants you to leave right now. Coming, Fu Anming called back. He then turned to Jiao Ningxue with an apologetic look. I'm sorry, Xiaoxue, wait for me to come back, and I'll take you to buy new clothes for the new year. Alright. Jiao Ningxue didn't want to say more. She just smiled gently. It's fine, you can go, be careful. Fu Anming turned and walked a few steps, then suddenly rushed back and hugged Jiao Ningxue. Xiaoxue, I know we've had some disagreements lately, but you're the only one in my heart. When I come back, we'll start over, I promise. Jiao Ningxue nodded. I believe you. Starting today, we'll each be heading toward a new beginning. Sitting in the car, Fu Anming felt inexplicably uneasy. Director, is that a special vehicle from the capital district? What's it doing in our factory? The driver stared intently out the window. Fu Anming glanced over and saw a handsome, dignified face in the car opposite, the man wearing a sharply tailored suit. The car parked itself right in the middle of the factory square with an air of brazen confidence, drawing everyone's attention. Xia Yichen pushed the car door open and walked straight up to Jiao Ningxue. Comrade Jiang, I've been asked to take you home. Fu Anming returned 2 days later. The emergency meeting had been highly classified and packed with agenda items, but fortunately, it was still early when he finally made it home. Wanting to surprise Jiao Ningxue, he deliberately didn't pick her up from work. Instead, he went to the market to buy her favorite dishes. Passing by a clothing store, he caught sight of a red cheongsam in the window and, without a second thought, asked the shopkeeper to wrap it up for him. Oh my, you have excellent taste. But this cheongsam is quite particular about who wears it. Perhaps you'd like to look at some other options, the shopkeeper said, rubbing her hands together with delight. Fu Anming remembered that Jiao Ningxue had worn the plain white work shirt issued by the factory for their wedding ceremony. They hadn't even had time to prepare proper wedding attire, which had always been a small regret between them. Wrap it up. My wife will do it justice, carrying bags of all sizes. He walked into the residential compound, looking up and seeing the light on in his own home. A wave of warmth washed over him, picturing the delighted look Jiao Ningxue would have in a moment. He could no longer contain his excitement. Pushing the door open, he called out, Honey, I'm home. Then, without even looking, he embraced the approaching figure. I've missed you so much. Did you miss me? I missed you too. A shy, timid voice came from within his embrace. Fu Anming froze for a moment before immediately pushing her away. What are you doing here? Didn't I arrange for someone to take you to rent an apartment? Where's your sister-in-law? Su Shaoqing bit her lip and looked at him. Brother, I don't want to move out. Don't be difficult. Shaoqing, your sister-in-law and I just got married, and she's not used to living with outsiders. Be sensible and live on your own. As Fu Anming spoke, he kept glancing into the room. Xiaoxue, come out and see what I bought for you. When Su Shaoqing saw the new style qipao Fu Anming had brought out, she was green with envy. Without a second thought, she blurted out, Brother, give it up. Jiao Ningxue has already divorced you. Shaoqing, don't joke about that. Your sister-in-law loves me so much. How could she possibly divorce me? Fu Anming's smile froze. Even as he said the words, he began frantically searching the entire house, room by room. Xiaoxue, stop teasing me. Come out. Please. But he searched every possible place, and with each passing moment, his heart sank deeper with dread. Not a single trace of Jiao Ningxue remained in the house. The red double happiness character from their wedding had been torn away, and even the scarf she had knitted for him was gone. As he looked up, it was as if he'd been struck by lightning. He collapsed to his knees. In their wedding photo, only he remained in the frame, smiling blissfully. Su Shaoqing walked in and gently knelt beside him. Brother, she said softly, here is the divorce papers she left. since she could be so heartless, you should stop pining for her. I'm willing to stay by your side, always. Fu Anming snatched the divorce certificate, his eyes wide with fury as he stared at it again and again. The stark black and white photo and the glaring red official seal felt like a physical blow. He couldn't understand why. Before he left, he and Jiang Yingxue had agreed, when he returned, they would start over. That day, Jiang Yingxue had smiled at him just as she had 1,000 times before, gentle and beautiful, as if she knew that look would be their final goodbye. Tears streamed from his eyes, scalding his cheeks. Fu Anming clutched the divorce certificate, his heart pleading desperately that it was all a lie. Yet the sharp corner of the stiff paper dug painfully into his palm. The pain confirmed it was all real. He had lost the love of his life. Su Shaoqing watched his shattered expression, inwardly pleased with Jiang Yingshue's good sense. She wrapped her arms around Fu Anming. You still have me, brother, she whispered. Now that Jiang Yingxue is gone, let me take care of you. I will marry you. As the scenery outside the car window shifted from unfamiliar to recognizable, Jiang Yingxue knew she had finally returned to the home she had left so many years before. Jiang Bai was already waiting at the door. His crisp, formal suit accentuated his ramrod-straight posture, and only the earnest look in his eyes betrayed a father's tenderness. Jiang Yingxue got out of the car, walked up to Jiang Bai, and called out excitedly, "Dad." "Yes." Jiang Bai patted her head. A flood of emotions welled up inside him at the sight of her pale, thin face, but they all condensed into a single phrase, "It's good to have you back." Jiang Yingxue smiled. Just as she was about to go back to the car for her luggage, she noticed that Xia Chen had already taken it down for her. He was standing politely about a meter away, not wanting to intrude on their reunion. "Comrade Xia, thank you," Jiang Yingxue said gratefully. "Would you like to join us for a simple meal?" Xia Chen smiled and said, "Uncle Jiang, you two have only just been reunited. I won't intrude any longer. I'll be sure to visit another time. I should head back now." "Alright, Comrade Xia, travel safely." Jiang Bai watched the car drive away before cautiously asking Jiang Yingxue, "You don't remember?" "Remember what?" Jiang Yingxue replied, walking side by side with Jiang Bai into the house. "Have you forgotten why you ran off to the northwest in the first place?" "Of course I remember. Wasn't it to avoid that arranged marriage with the Xie family?" Jiang Yingxue paused, the name dawning on her. "It was him." Jiang Bai shook his head. "Silly girl." Jiang Yingxue couldn't help but laugh. In her memory, that Xie boy was still a toddler in split pants playing in the sand. In the blink of an eye, he had become a researcher at the Beijing Academy of Sciences. Jiang Bai spoke with cautious optimism. Xiao Chen has really made something of himself. Would you reconsider giving him a chance? "Oh, Dad," Jiang Yingxue said with a sigh, knowing her father's concern came from a place of love. "Your daughter just got divorced. What would people think if I jumped into something new right away? Besides, I'm really not in the right headspace for that." Jiang Bai had only mentioned it in passing. Seeing Jiang Yingshue's lack of interest, he dropped the subject and ushered everyone to the table for dinner. Early the next morning, Jiang Yingxue obtained a library pass from Peking University and dove headfirst into her studies. Upon returning to Beijing, she declined the offer to be transferred to the Jingbei General Factory. Instead, she decided to take the college entrance exam and return to student life. As a child, Jiang Yingxue heard the news of foreign astronauts landing on the moon over the radio. From that moment, she was filled with curiosity about the vast universe millions of miles away. If not for the unforeseen events that followed, she would have entered Peking University as planned to study aerospace. Snowflakes swirled outside the window. Jiang Yingshue's fingers were red from the cold as she buried her head in solving a difficult problem. Suddenly, a figure sat down opposite her. She looked up and was surprised to see it was Xia Chen. "Comrade Xia, what a coincidence," she greeted with a smile. Xia Chen looked up at her, then turned his face away somewhat sheepishly. "Uncle Jiang mentioned you're planning to retake the college entrance exam." "Yes," Jiang Yingxue nodded, "but I've been out of school for so long. I'm finding these textbooks quite challenging." Xia Chen handed over a stack of materials wrapped in greaseproof paper. "My cousin is taking the exam this year too. I asked her for some of her study notes. I hope they'll be helpful." Jiang Yingshue's eyes lit up as she accepted it with both hands. "Comrade Xia, this is incredibly useful," she said with delight. "Really, that's wonderful. The format of the college entrance exam changes every year, so review materials are crucial," said Jiang Yingxue, carefully putting the materials away. It looks like I'll have to treat you to a meal this time. Xiayi Chen didn't refuse this time. A snowy day is perfect for hot pot. It was only through conversation that Jiang Yingxue discovered Xiayi Chen's depth of knowledge. Not only was he well versed in chemistry, but he also had a solid understanding of astronomy and aviation. As they talked over their meal, dusk had quietly fallen before they knew it. Let me walk you home, Xiayi Chen said, already leading the way toward the Jiang residence, leaving Jiang Yingxue no room to refuse. Jiang Yingxue looked at his tall figure walking ahead and had no choice but to follow. In the past, Fu Anming would always walk her back to her dormitory after her night shifts. On a summer night, the moon hung large and luminous in the sky, its silvery light spilling over their shoulders. The world was so quiet, they could almost hear the frantic pounding of their own hearts. Jiang Yingxue said goodbye to Xiayi Chen and stepped inside. Jiang Bo was sitting on the sofa reading the paper. You're back, he said. Someone called for you just now. Who was it? Jiang Yingxue asked absently, changing her shoes by the door. Who do you think? Jiang Yingxue hadn't made any particular effort to hide her whereabouts, so she wasn't surprised that Fu Anming had tracked her down. Yet, upon hearing he was there, she felt nothing. There was simply nothing left to say between them. Brother, have you lost your mind? Su Shaoqing looked at Fu Anming, her patience finally snapping. Jiang Yingxue is gone, she's not coming back, you need to snap out of it. For days, Fu Anming could neither eat nor sleep properly. He was like a man possessed, muttering either I'm sorry, Xiaoxue, or I have to find Xiaoxue. Leaving work without permission or filing for leave is a violation of the rules. Even if he wanted to go to Beijing, he couldn't just take off. When Su Shaoqing came to cook for him that evening, she saw him blankly setting a bowl at Jiang Yingxue's empty seat. Memories from her past life, overshadowed by Jiang Yingxue, came flooding back. In their past life, after Jiang Yingxue died with her unborn child, Fu Anming completely fell apart. He attempted suicide by overdose several times, forcing the factory to let him take early retirement and recuperate at home. Yet, even with Su Shaoqing giving her all, every ounce of patience and love, she couldn't earn so much as a glance from Fu Anming. At night, he'd rather cling to Jiang Yingxue's clothes than touch her. Fu Anming was in a much better state than in his past life. Su Shaoqing steadied her emotions and called out softly, Anming. A sudden spark of joy lit up Fu Anming's eyes. Xiaoxue, you're back. But that glimmer vanished into nothingness the moment he saw clearly who stood before him. Shaoqing, what are you doing here? I told you not to come to my house. If Xiaoxue sees you, she'll get the wrong idea. That night, after Su Shaoqing held him and declared she wanted to marry him, he immediately pushed her away. His face turned ashen as he said, my wife will only be Xiaoxue. I have no romantic feelings for you whatsoever. Don't ever say such things again. Watching his emotions shift so abruptly, Su Shaoqing dug her fingernails into her palms in bitter frustration. Brother, our school has an exchange program at Peking University next week. Let me try to talk to my sister-in-law for you. Fu Anming immediately grasped her hand, his eyes filled with hope. Really, Shaoqing, you'd be willing to help me persuade Xiaoxue to come back? Su Shaoqing smiled tenderly, her gaze lingering on Fu Anming's features. Of course, brother, she said softly, you're the most important person to me. I would never hurt you. Fu Anming immediately rushed to the bedroom and handed the cheongsam to Su Shaoqing. Please give this dress to her for me, he said. Tell her I've made up for the regret from our wedding day, and I promise to treat her well, always. Outside the window, a night snow swirled, sweeping from the northwest all the way to Jingbei. The director of the Jingbei People's Art Troupe approached Jiang Yingxue, asking her to be the lead dancer for the upcoming cultural exchange performance at Jingbei University. She had been learning dance from the troupe leader since she was a child, and she would always step up without hesitation whenever the troupe needed her help. There's a performance at the auditorium tonight, can I go and watch? Xiayi Chen, who had come to discuss some matters with Jiang Bai, happened to hear about it and asked Jiang Yingxue. Jiang Yingxue poured him a cup of hot tea. Of course, don't be silly, you're more than welcome to come. The event was a lively affair, with performances from both the cultural troupe and the student arts group. After reading for a while in the library, Jiang Yingxue went for a stroll by Weiming Lake to stretch her legs. Just as I was about to leave, someone suddenly called out to me, Sis-in-law. Su Shaoqing walked over with a few other female students, her arms full of books, visibly excited. Sis-in-law, I finally found you. Do you have any idea how frantic my brother has been since you left without a word? She grabbed Jiang Yingshua's wrist with such force it was almost painful. Sis-in-law, please come back with me. Don't make my brother worry anymore, okay? Jiang Yingxue frowned and shook off her hand. Fu Anming and I are divorced. I'm not your sister-in-law, so stop calling me that. Su Xiaqing's brow furrowed, her eyes welling up with tears. Sis, are you still upset that when we fell into the lake, brother saved me first? It's all my fault. I should have just died then you two wouldn't have gotten divorced. Jiang Yingxue looked at her with utter calm. Fu Anming isn't here. Who exactly are you performing for? Su Xiaqing's eyes instantly reddened. Her two classmates, unable to stand it any longer, spoke up for her. Miss, how can you talk to your own sister-in-law like that? That's so harsh. It's alright. My brother has always spoiled my sister-in-law, so she's used to it. I'm fine, Su Xiaqing said in a fragile, delicate voice. The other girls' expressions grew even more indignant. Jiang Yingxue had no desire to waste words on these outsiders who were being used as pawns. She turned and left without another word. After exchanging glances, the group looked at Su Xiaqing with even greater pity. Xiaqing, one of them said, with a sister-in-law like that, life at home must be so hard for you, isn't it? She's so pretty, she must be a real schemer. Xiaqing is so naive, there's no way she could outsmart her. By the way, isn't she performing tonight? Maybe we should teach her a lesson. This little incident didn't faze Jiang Yingxue in the slightest. When the time came, she simply went backstage to get ready. Someone called her name from the doorway. When she went out to look, she found Xia Yichen standing there. Xia Yichen handed her a box of still warm pastries. I checked the schedule and figured you probably hadn't had time to eat. The sweet, nutty aroma of chestnut wafted from the box. Only then did Jiang Yingxue realize how hungry she was. A knowing smile spread across her face. This is from that shop I loved so much as a child. Well, you'd better grab a bite while you can. See you in a bit. As Jiang Yingxue watched Xia Yichen walk away, a warm feeling blossomed in her heart. Her dance piece was scheduled after the student arts troupe's performance, and students were clearing the stage of props. The lights dimmed, and she led everyone onto the stage to take their starting positions. The choreography was second nature to her, a perfect fusion of grace and power that made her move like a dancing butterfly. But during a lunge, a snowball was hurled from the audience and struck her with pinpoint accuracy. Jiang Yingxue lost her balance all at once and fell heavily onto the stage. The sudden turn of events stunned everyone. The dancers gathered around Jiang Yingxue, their formation falling into complete disarray. Those few female students stood up, shouting, "We refuse to watch a tainted actress perform. Jiang Yingxue is morally corrupt and unfit to be the lead dancer." Jiang Yingshue's face turned cold, a sharp pain in her ankle rooting her to the spot. Unaware of the truth, audience members began asking around. Several female students, without any reservation, loudly recounted the story fabricated by Su Xiaqing, trying to sway everyone to their side and force Jiang Yingxue off the stage. Just as the situation was about to spiral out of control, Xia Yichen stood up and walked over to the group. His imposing stature carried an inherent intimidation. The female students grew nervous instantly. "What do you think you're doing? We're speaking out for justice." Su Xiaqing spread her arms wide, blocking the path of the group. "Sir, my classmates were just sympathizing with my situation. If you don't believe me, I can tell you everything Jiang Yingxue has done." "Fine," Xia Yichen replied impassively. He clapped his hands, and a security guard entered from the doorway. "You can tell it all to the police." Slowly, the color drained from Su Xiaqing and her friends' faces. "We're students. How dare you have us arrested?" Just then, a teacher rushed over, sweating profusely, and began pleading with Xia Yichen. Xia Yichen couldn't be bothered to argue. "Since you're their teacher," he said dismissively, "you can accompany your students on their little trip." Only after the troublemakers were escorted out did the auditorium finally settle into quiet. Jiang Yingxue shot Xia Yichen a look of profound gratitude, then quickly composed herself with the other performers and resumed the show. The spotlight found Jiang Yingxue once more. Her dance, moving to the rhythm of the music, now carried an edge of fury and resilience. Like a phoenix reborn from the ashes of adversity, the dance ended to thunderous applause. Jiang Yingxue returned backstage, her ankle swollen beyond recognition. Every step felt like walking on knives. Just then, someone called out, "Comrade Jiang, someone's here for you." Before Jiang Yingxue could even look up, the figure was already rushing over, crouching down in front of her. "How did you get hurt so badly? Let me take you to the hospital." Jiang Yingxue tugged her pant leg down, a little embarrassed. I'm fine, don't be stubborn, a bone injury takes 100 days to heal. If you don't take care of it properly, even walking will be a struggle. Xia Chen spoke to her with uncharacteristic firmness, yet his eyes were filled with nothing but concern and tenderness. The raw emotion in his gaze startled her, and the words of refusal died in her throat. Xia Chen turned around and said, "Come on, I'll carry you on my back." Jiang Yingshue's cheeks flushed as she carefully settled onto his back. Xia Chen carried the pleasant scent of laundry detergent, and his broad shoulders felt as steady as a small boat. With great care, Xia Chen hoisted Jiang Yingxue onto his back. "Don't worry," he said firmly, "I won't let you fall." "Okay," Jiang Yingxue replied softly, her arms instinctively tightening their hold. Fortunately, it was just a simple sprain with no bone damage. The doctor applied medication, bandaged it up, and then pulled Xia Chen aside to explain the dressing change schedule and massage techniques. Jiang Yingxue immediately realized the doctor had misunderstood. She began to explain, "You can just tell me." The doctor gave her a disapproving look. "Your wife is injured, of course her husband should take care of her. Don't spoil your man too much." The comment left both their faces burning red. Xia Chen forced a calm demeanor and said, "You're absolutely right. I've noted all the instructions and will come back for a follow-up in a week." After the doctor left, the two of them were at a loss for words, left staring awkwardly in opposite directions. Jiang Yingxue shot him a quick glance and noticed that even the tips of Xia Chen's ears had turned red. She found it utterly endearing and couldn't help but laugh. "What's so funny?" Seeing her laugh, Xia Chen couldn't hold back his own question. "Comrade Xia, you're so considerate, you must receive a lot of love letters from the young ladies, don't you?" "No," Xia Chen denied without a second thought. Straightening his posture, Jiang Yingxue raised a slender eyebrow, her expression one of disbelief. Xia Chen rubbed his nose and lowered his gaze. "They all know I'm engaged." Jiang Yingxue was taken aback for a moment. The arranged marriage between the Jiang and Xia families was set by their grandfather's generation. Later, Xia Chen and Jiang Yingshue's brother, Jiang Yingquan, were successively sent abroad for studies, and he lost all contact with Jiang Yingxue. When Jiang Yingxue was 16, she overheard Jiang Bo on the phone saying that Xia Chen had returned and intended to fulfill the marriage contract with her. Unwilling to let this absurd arranged marriage dictate her life, she chose to run away from home to escape the wedding. After meeting Fu Anming, she completely put this nominal fiancé out of her mind. Yet now, Xia Chen was looking at her with a serious expression, his eyes filled with boundless tenderness. "I've been waiting for you." Jiang Yingshue's fingers involuntarily curled slightly. "Xia Chen, I just got divorced." The heartbreak of 2 lifetimes had wounded her far more deeply than she let on. If even Fu Anming, who had once seemed to love her so profoundly, could shift his affections elsewhere, she simply couldn't bring herself to gamble another decade of her life on the outcome of a new relationship. "I know you're not ready to open your heart to someone new yet, and that's perfectly fine. Please don't feel any pressure." Xia Chen smiled gently. "You should chase your dreams without holding back, because our aspirations, they're aligned." Jiang Yingxue suddenly remembered their dinner conversation. When they had discussed aerospace, their minds had been perfectly in sync. The light in his eyes had mirrored her own exactly. After spending 2 days in the detention center, Su Xiaoqing's eyes were clouded and weary when she was finally released. "You're Su Xiaoqing, right? Study hard from now on, and don't get into trouble again," the guard advised. "Go on, your family is here to pick you up." Su Xiaoqing froze for a moment, then looked up to see a familiar figure. Fu Anming stood at the entrance, looking travel-worn and weary. "Brother," she whimpered, her lips trembling, before rushing forward to throw herself into Fu Anming's arms and burst into loud sobs. Fu Anming nudged her away, a little awkwardly. "Come on now, you're not a child, stand up properly." Su Xiaoqing buried her face in his chest, refusing to look up. Seeing she was genuinely upset, Fu Anming softened his tone to soothe her and took her out for a meal. "Brother, what brings you here?" Su Xiaoqing's tone was hopeful, practically asking if he'd come for her. "I'm here on a business trip. I took a few days off to come see Xiaoxue." Su Xiaoqing's smile froze, but Fu Anming failed to notice it entirely, pressing on with urgency. "Xiaoqing, have you seen Xiaoxue lately? Did you tell her how much I miss her? Was she happy when she saw the Chong Sam?" Su Xiaoqing gripped her chopsticks tightly. "Brother, I've already tried to persuade sister-in-law, but she refuses to come back. she said it's over between you two, completely and for good. Fu Anming's expression went blank for a moment, as he muttered distractedly, no, that can't be, I'll go talk to her properly in a bit, she'll understand how I feel. Brother, wake up. Jiang Yingxue has already moved on with someone else. Fu Anming's chopsticks clattered to the floor. How could you be so careless? Xia Chen reached out to steady Jiang Yingxue, who had nearly slipped, and gently brushed the snow from her shoulder. Jiang Yingxue's ankle hadn't fully healed, making the snowy walk even more difficult. She gestured toward her foot with a sigh. I really should be using a crutch. Xia Chen reached out to steady her. I'll be your crutch. That's overqualifying yourself, Dr. Xia, just doing my part for our nation's future female academician. They exchanged a glance and shared a laugh. Are you staying for dinner? My dad made bone broth this morning before he headed back to base. Having taken care of Jiang Yingxue so often, Xia Chen was already quite at home in the Jiang household. Sure, he said, I can even show off my cooking skills. As they chatted and stepped inside, just as Jiang Yingxue was about to close the door, a familiar voice suddenly called out, Xiao Shui. Jiang Yingxue was taken aback. She followed the voice and looked over, her brow furrowing upon seeing the person. Fu Anming, what are you doing here? Fu Anming strode closer, his gaze sweeping over Xia Chen with a mix of anger and wariness. When he turned to Jiang Yingxue, his expression shifted to one of profound hurt. Xiao Shui, why didn't you tell me you were coming back to your parents' house? I've been worried sick. My work is done now. I'm here to take you home, Xiao Shui. Fu Anming extended his hand toward Jiang Yingxue. The only thing that settled in his palm was the ceaselessly swirling snow. Fu Anming's hands began to tremble. Xiao Shui, let's talk this through properly. Please don't leave me. Okay. Jiang Yingxue looked at him, travel-worn, covered in frost, his eyes webbed with red veins. In the past, her heart would have softened long ago, and she would have rushed into his arms, but now, seeing him only brings back the pain of her past life and the wounds of this one. She said flatly, Fu Anming, we're already divorced. I don't agree to the divorce. Fu Anming took a step closer, looking deeply at Jiang Yingxue. Xiao Shui, if you're unhappy with anything, just tell me, I can change. Jiang Yingxue shook her head. There's no need. There's nothing left between us. Everything about you has nothing to do with me anymore. As she turned to go inside, Fu Anming, in a moment of desperation, reached out to pull her into an embrace, only to have his arm blocked. Xia Chen looked at him with a dark expression, his tone impatient. Comrade Fu, have some self-respect. And who might you be, comrade? Fu Anming's face darkened. Why did you follow Xiao Shui inside? Let me remind you, interfering in someone else's marriage is against the law. Xia Chen remained unmoved. I'm just coming home for dinner. What's the problem? Fu Anming's face instantly turned ashen. Don't be ridiculous. This is my and Xiao Shui's home. Step aside, please. I need to get in. With an innocent look in his eyes, Xia Chen said, Xiao Shui didn't invite you in, Comrade Fu. Breaking and entering is also against the law. Fu Anming had no choice but to cast a pleading look at Jiang Yingxue. Jiang Yingxue first glanced at Xia Chen. What nonsense are you talking about? Fu Anming couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope, only for Jiang Yingxue's next words to chill his heart. He's my guest for dinner, and Fu Anming, we're divorced. Stop trying to intimidate people with that kind of talk. Isn't Su Shaoqing also in Beijing? Why don't you go find her? I've already looked for. He didn't finish his sentence. But Jiang Yingxue already understood, her annoyance growing. Then you should take even better care of her. After all, you did make a vow. It's not like that, Xiao Shui. My care for her is purely that of a brother for a sister. Xia Chen, having pieced together the tangled relationships between them, let out a soft chuckle. Comrade Fu, my care for Xiao Shui is also that of a brother for a sister. Do you believe that? How can your feelings for Xiao Shui be the same as mine for Shaoqing? Xia Chen shrugged. See, you don't even believe it yourself. Jiang Yingxue was somewhat surprised. She hadn't expected Xia Chen to be so skilled in debate. You, Fu Anming's chest heaved, the tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife. Enough. Jiang Yingxue looked at Fu Anming with an expressionless face. Let's end it here, Fu Anming. Let's not make the ending any uglier than it has to be. Fu Anming's hand fell limply to his side, as he watched with wounded eyes. Jiang Yingxue's face slowly disappeared behind the closing door, separated by a single wall. The two of them remained in their own silence. Do you still have feelings for him? Xia Chen asked, a note of unease in his voice. Jiang Yingxue took a deep breath and shook her head resolutely. From the moment he chose Su Shaoqing, there was no longer any possibility for us, only then did Xia Chen feel at ease. He then walked briskly toward the kitchen. You rest here in the living room. I'll go make dinner, you can cook. Of course, Yingquan and I always cooked for ourselves when we were abroad. Jiang Yingshua's interest was immediately piqued. Really, didn't the school have a cafeteria? The local food over there is just awful. Seeing her curiosity, Xia Chen picked out some interesting bits and told them to her like stories, making her eyes crinkle into crescents of laughter. Jiang Yingxue took a pocket watch from her coat's inner pocket. In the black and white photo was a young man with delicate, handsome features. With nostalgia and tenderness, she traced her fingers over the young man's face in the photograph, recalling how Jiang Yingquan looked when they worked together in the lab. Xia Chen's eyes grew slightly red. Yingquan always talked about you, he said. You were so young back then. He wondered if you would even remember him by the time he came home. Jiang Yingxue recalled the last letter Jiang Yingquan had sent her, saying he hoped she could live a happy life, that she shouldn't let the trivialities of daily existence snuff out the flame in her heart, and that she must bravely pursue her dreams. Xia Chen said, Xiaoxue, I'll stand by your side forever, just like Yingquan did. The aroma of the cooking wafted all the way from the kitchen to outside the door. Fu Anming clenched his fists, unable to stop himself from imagining the interaction between the two inside, in the past. When Jiang Yingxue was cooking, he loved nothing more than to sneak up and hug her from behind, playfully begging for a taste. Is that what it's like between her and that man now? Fu Anming dared not think any further. He stared at the vast expanse of white snow, but his heart felt even more desolate than the landscape. Xiaoxue, I was wrong, please forgive me. He dropped to his knees with a thud at the doorway, his hunched back making him look like a stray dog with its tail between its legs. After washing the dishes, Xia Chen walked into the living room and saw Jiang Yingxue standing by the window, looking at Fu Anming kneeling at the doorstep. Do you want me to chase him away for you? Jiang Yingxue withdrew her gaze and shook her head. It's freezing out there. He'll leave on his own once he's had enough. Xia Chen nodded, picked up his coat and put it on. He still had to return to work at the Academy of Sciences. Jiang Yingxue glanced at him and asked hesitantly, do you think I'm being too harsh? Xia Chen was taken aback for a moment, then a smile touched his lips as he ruffled her hair. I think you're not harsh enough. A man who changes his heart like that deserves a good beating to vent your anger. Only then did Jiang Yingxue relax and smile at him. You should get going. Be careful on the road. With that, she brushed the fallen snow from Xia Chen's coat. The door opened a crack. Fu Anming crawled forward on his knees, his gaze fixed intently on the figure inside, but he could only see Xia Chen's back. Xia stood in the entryway saying goodbye to Jiang Yingxue, his tall frame completely blocking her from view. All Fu Anming could see was a pair of pale, slender hands straightening Xia Chen's collar. Then, Xia stepped out and pulled the door shut behind him. The hope in Fu Anming's eyes turned to ashes. As Xia Chen passed by him, he shot him a fierce glare. If you truly love her, then stop disturbing her life. This is a matter between husband and wife. It's none of your business as an outsider, Fu Anming said stiffly, his neck taut with defiance. Xia Chen's expression turned icy. He glanced back at the door and lowered his voice. You claim to love her, but when I went to the northwest to bring her back, she was gaunt and despondent, a shadow of her former self. At these words, Fu Anming's Adam's apple bobbed, but no sound escaped him. If your love is a knife pointed at her, then you don't deserve to have her. Xia Chen threw down these words and left without looking back. Fu Anming recalled the last time he saw Jiang Yingxue before the meeting. Her small face was pale and gaunt, and the eyes that had always smiled at him had become a still, unreadable pool, yet he had noticed nothing, even feeling pleased that she had become more sensible. While he was happily fantasizing about a good life together with Jiang Yingxue and Su Shaoqing, all Jiang Yingxue had in her heart was the desperate wish to escape from him as soon as possible. He lay prostrate in the snow, filled with remorse. Tears streamed down his cheeks, only to freeze into icy crystals almost instantly. He truly knew he was wrong. He would willingly give his life if only Xiaoxue would forgive him. Jiang Yingxue had been studying in the library until nightfall, assuming Fu Anming had long since left. Glancing out the window, she saw a kneeling figure completely blanketed in snow, motionless as an ice sculpture. A jolt of alarm shot through Jiang Yingxue. If he really froze to death out there, the consequences would be a mess too tangled to unravel. She opened the door and stepped out, her expression a tangle of emotions as she called, Fu Anming. Fu Anming's face was ashen, Trembling, he lifted his head and forced a strained smile. Xiaoxue, you finally came out. Jiang Yingshue's brow was tightly furrowed. After a long moment of deliberation, she finally spoke. Come in. Fu Anming stirred, his legs numb from kneeling so long that the blood had stopped circulating. He struggled even to stand. Jiang Yingxue couldn't bear to watch. She reached out to steady him and helped him back to her place. Having been out in the biting wind all day and with his emotions in turmoil, Fu Anming's body gave out as soon as he warmed up, and he fainted. Jiang Yingxue struggled to support him back to the bedroom. Just as she tucked him in and turned to leave, Fu Anming grabbed her hand. Xiaoxue, he murmured, don't go. Tears welled in the corners of his eyes, his voice hoarse. Xiaoxue, I love you. Jiang Yingxue was taken aback for a moment. It was rare to see Fu Anming look so vulnerable, yet no matter how unusual it was, it could no longer stir her heart. She pried his hand away and said softly, Fu Anming, your love is too cheap. Fu Anming would never understand that the chasm between them wasn't about love or the lack of it, but a torrent of life and death from which there was no turning back. Fu Anming burned with fever all night, tormented by relentless nightmares, in his dreams. He saw it again and again. Jiang Yingxue was struck by a speeding car, lying in a pool of blood, her pregnant belly prominent. He scrambled desperately towards her. He screamed her name, fell to his knees, and begged the onlookers to save his wife and child. In his despair, he even pleaded with the gods to take his own life in exchange for theirs, but it was all too late. The operating room lights went dark. The doctor told him to see Jiang Yingxue one last time, with trembling hands. He begged her over and over not to leave him. Jiang Yingxue lay covered in blood, leaving behind only these words, Fu Anming, in our next life, I don't want to marry you again, no. Fu Anming awoke from a chaotic, jumbled dream, his mind a muddled mess from the high fever. His vision swam, yet he gritted his teeth, crawled out of bed, and stumbled forward. Collapsing onto his desk, he shook his head, trying to clear it. In his dazed state, his hand brushed against something cold, lifting it. He saw it was an exquisite, antique pocket watch, and inside was a photograph of a young man. Fu Anming, what are you doing? Jiang Yingxue heard the noise from the study and walked over. Fu Anming's eyes lit up. He stumbled forward and pulled Jiang Yingxue into a tight embrace, letting out a sigh of relief as he felt the warmth of her body. You're real, thank goodness. Jiang Yingxue frowned and pushed him away. Fu Anming, keep your hands to yourself. Xiaoxue, I know you still care for me. Come home with me, Fu Anming insisted, his voice strained. I've already rented an apartment for Xiaoqing. After the college entrance exams in June, she'll be off to university elsewhere. She won't come between us anymore. Impossible, Jiang Yingxue said, enunciating each word with deliberate clarity. Fu Anming, I don't love you anymore. The words hit him like a physical blow, plunging his vision into darkness. A searing, tearing pain spread from his chest through every nerve in his body. You're lying to me. Yet Jiang Yingxue merely stared at him with icy detachment, as if looking at a complete stranger. That look was more than Fu Anming could bear. His bloodshot eyes grew wild with a frantic intensity. Then who do you love now? Is it him? He snatched up the pocket watch and demanded, his voice rising in a loud accusation. Jiang Yingshue's gaze froze. How dare you just take my things, she said angrily. Give it back to me. Now, I'll give it back if you make up with me. It felt like a bucket of cold water had been dumped over Jiang Yingxue. She looked at Fu Anming as if he were insane. Impossible, Fu Anming. There is not a chance in hell I will ever make up with you. Not now. Not ever. Fu Anming stared at her resolute, unwavering expression, his mind a complete blank. The feeling of losing Jiang Yingxue in his dream had been too visceral, too real. He couldn't bear the thought of her leaving him now, not even for a second. Xiaoxue, I won't allow you to fall in love with anyone else, I forbid it. He finished speaking with icy finality. The pocket watch fell from his hand, and under Jiang Yingshue's terrified, pleading gaze, he raised his foot and stomped it to pieces. Fu Anming, you bastard. Jiang Yingxue pushed Fu Anming away through her tears, sinking to her knees as she cradled the pocket watch shattered beyond recognition. Twisted metal parts had pierced the thin photograph inside. Tearing the young man's face to shreds, she clutched the fragments of the watch, weeping with utter despair. The sharp edges cut into her palm, and drops of blood began to fall to the floor. The sight of that blood snapped Fu Anming back to his senses. He crouched down beside her, his gaze fixed on her injured hand with profound bitterness. Xiaoxue, he said, has it only been a few days? Do you love him that much already? Jiang Yingxue looked up. her tear-filled eyes blazing with unmistakable hatred and disgust. Fu Anming, she spat, this was my brother's keepsake, this was the last photo he left behind in this world, I hate you, I never want to see you again. Fu Anming slumped to the floor. How could this be? Jiang Yingxue wiped away her tears, dragged Fu Anming downstairs, opened the door, and shoved him out. As the door slammed shut, it was as if half of Fu Anming's soul had been ripped away, his face ashen like a corpse. After what he had done, he no longer had the face to kneel and beg for forgiveness as he had during the day. Besides, no matter how much he pleaded now, Jiang Yingxue would never forgive him. Fu Anming wandered the streets, utterly desolate. In Jingbei, lights glowed before every door, and behind each window. Families huddled together for warmth. In the icy, snow-covered world, he was utterly alone, he had no home left, he had destroyed it with his own hands. Fu Anming let out a bitter laugh, his vision suddenly went dark, and he pitched forward. In his dimming sight, he saw a girl running towards him. With great effort, he raised a hand, Xiaoxue. Then, he completely lost consciousness. After that day, Jiang Yingxue also fell ill, her fever spiking to 39 degrees Celsius. Xia Chen was frantic with worry, pestering the doctor non-stop to do something. Finally, driven to distraction by his pleading, the doctor tossed him a towel and told him to cool Jiang Yingxue down with cold water. Xia Chen accepted it with profuse thanks and dutifully spent the entire night tending to her, not closing his eyes for a single moment. The next morning, Jiang Yingxue awoke to the light of dawn, her gaze meeting a pair of weary yet joyful eyes. Xia Chen, Xiaoxue. You're finally awake. A glimmer of light finally returned to Xia Chen's eyes. Jiang Yingxue reached out to smooth his furrowed brow, only to find the wound on her hand had been carefully bandaged with gauze, warming her heart. How long have I been asleep? A full day and night. Xia Chen's lips trembled slightly as he poured a glass of warm water and brought it to her lips. If you don't wake up soon, I'm going to have to call and tell Uncle Jiang. Jiang Yingxue took a few sips of water to soothe her throat, her thoughts drifting back to the ruined pocket watch. I wonder if Dad will be upset when he finds out. Sensing her worry, Xia Chen ruffled her hair. I've already sent the pocket watch for repairs. The shopkeeper said he'll do his best to restore it to its original condition. The part is completely shattered. How could it possibly be fixed? Jiang Yingxue knew Xia Chen was just trying to comfort her. She didn't call him out on it and instead gave him a grateful smile. Thank you. Xia Chen tucked the blanket around her. Xiaoxue, don't mention it. I already feel terrible for not protecting you this time. Jiang Yingxue was taken aback, noticing the genuine remorse on Xia Chen's face. She reached out and took his hand. Xia Chen, I felt so relieved when I woke up and saw you here. Their eyes met, and in that shared gaze, affection blossomed wildly between them. After being discharged from the hospital, Jiang Yingxue threw herself back into her studies without a moment's rest. Xia Chen would get up early every morning to drive her to the library, and after work, he would make a special detour to pick her up and take her home. Just before the new year, Jiang Yingxue was surprised to receive a letter from the factory director. Beyond the customary pleasantries, the entire letter was spent probing her reasons for insisting on the divorce, urging her to talk things out properly with Fu Anming and not let a moment of stubborn pride cause her to miss out on someone who truly loved her. The director wrote to tell her that after returning from Jingbei, Fu Anming had contracted pneumonia and had been rushed to the emergency room twice. Whenever he had even a sliver of consciousness, he would incessantly call out Jiang Yingxue's name. Jiang Yingxue neatly folded the letter and began writing her reply. She informed the regimental commander of her current situation and plans, and concluded by sending her regards to all the comrades at the factory. In all those flowing lines of text, not a single word was mentioned about Fu Anming. After 6 months of hard work, the moment Jiang Yingxue stepped out of the examination hall, she felt an immense sense of relief. Congratulations, Xiaoxue, Chen. Jiang Yingxue turned around with a smile, but it faded the moment she saw Fu Anming's face. Didn't I tell you not to come looking for me? Fu Anming's grip on the bouquet of roses tightened. He said bitterly, Xiaoxue, today is your big day. I just wanted to come and cheer you on. Don't bother. Save that thought for Su Shaoqing. Xiaoxue, you don't have to forgive me, but will you at least accept these roses? Fu Anming took Jiang Yingxue's hand. Do you remember? On the day of our first movie date, I gave you roses too. Jiang Yingxue was silent for a moment. Just as she was about to speak, Xia Chen's voice came from behind her, but roses were never her favorite. Xia Chen stepped forward and offered a bouquet of vibrant Gerber daisies. faced with the two starkly different bouquets, Jiang Yingxue took Xie Yichen's without a moment's hesitation. Jiang Yingxue smiled at Xie Yichen and thanked him, then turned to Fu Anming. "Comrade Fu," she said, "please don't do anything so inappropriate again. I don't want my fiancé to get the wrong idea." With that, and without waiting for Fu Anming's reaction, she took Xie Yichen's arm and got into the car. Fu Anming watched their retreating figures, laughing and chatting with an intimacy as natural as a newlywed couple's. In a fit of irritation, he threw the bouquet of roses into a trash bin, only for a sharp thorn on the stem to pierce deep into his palm, sending a wave of acute pain through him, in stark contrast to Fu Anming's dejection. Xie Yichen's grin was practically ear to ear. As if the car he was driving was the one taking Jiang Yingxue home as his bride. "I'm the one taking the college entrance exam, why are you so happy?" Jiang Yingxue teased him on purpose. Sure enough, the corners of Xie Yichen's mouth, which had been lifted, immediately fell. "Huh, then what you said." "What did I say?" Jiang Yingxue feigned confusion as she retorted. Xie Yichen pressed his lips together, but quickly composed himself again. However, the disappointment in his tone was impossible to hide. "I thought you finally approved of me, but it's okay, I'll keep trying." In the blink of an eye, he had already cheered himself up, a smile returning to his lips. "We finally finished the exams, let's go get a nice meal to celebrate." Jiang Yingxue couldn't help but pat Xie Yichen's head. "I've already booked a restaurant in Jiaxing." As soon as they entered the restaurant, a server led them to the private room on the top floor. The moment Xie Yichen stepped inside, he froze. "Dad, Mom, what are you doing here? And Uncle Jiang?" Before he could finish speaking, his eyes caught the festive decorations in the private room and the large characters cut from red paper on the wall. "Engagement banquet for Jiang Yingxue and Xie Yichen." Xie Yichen turned back to look at Jiang Yingxue in confusion, only to be ushered inside and seated. With the main guests all present, dishes began to be served. Jiang Bo took charge of conversing with Xie's parents, leaving Jiang Yingxue to focus solely on filling her stomach. She shyly picked up a spare rib and placed it in Xie Yichen's bowl. "Aren't you hungry? You should eat." "Xiaoxue, what does this mean?" Xie Yichen, who was usually so composed and methodical when handling all sorts of chemical materials, was wearing a rare, somewhat goofy expression. Jiang Yingxue found it utterly endearing. "What's wrong? Don't you want to?" Xie Yichen's eyes widened instantly as he retorted. "I do. I've dreamed of nothing but bringing you home as my wife." The room fell silent, and both sets of parents looked at the couple with beaming smiles. Jiang Yingxue's face flushed, but when she met his gaze, a gaze that held her and only her heart overflowed with happiness. "Xie Yichen, I want to marry you, too." After the college entrance exam results were released, Jiang Yingxue was thrilled to be accepted into the aviation department of Peking University. On the first day of the semester, Xie Yichen personally escorted her to registration. His tall, imposing figure stood out on campus, drawing glances from many female students. The senior student giving Jiang Yingxue a campus tour couldn't resist asking, "Is this your boyfriend?" Jiang Yingxue exchanged a look with Xie Yichen and replied with a smile. "He's my fiancé." "What a perfect match, a talented man and a beautiful woman," the senior said with a look of envy. Suddenly, a commotion broke out, shattering the peaceful campus atmosphere. Jiang Yingxue looked toward the disturbance, puzzled, and saw a boy had accidentally knocked over a freshman. The girl's frail figure on the ground looked all too familiar. The next moment, Fu Anming's hurried figure confirmed Jiang Yingxue's suspicion. He rushed over, scooped Su Shaoqing up into his arms, and asked anxiously if she was hurt. Su Shaoqing shook her head, putting on a brave face. The senior glanced over and said, "That couple is quite good-looking, but the girl seems a bit artificial." Jiang Yingxue calmly averted her gaze and said to the senior, "Let's keep going." Originally, with Su Shaoqing's grades, she wouldn't have made it into Jing University. However, a series of special merit-based bonus policies issued by the state this year just pushed her score over the admission line, landing her a spot in the unpopular archaeology department. Fu Anming was carrying Su Shaoqing towards the infirmary when a long mist figure flashed in his peripheral vision, causing him to stop in his tracks. "What's wrong, Gidge?" Fu Anming scanned the flow of students and teachers coming and going, but didn't see Jiang Yingxue among them. He then shook his head. "It's nothing." By the time he had safely escorted Su Shaoqing to the foot of the girls' dormitory, the sky had already grown dark. Su Shaoqing looked up, her eyes full of affection. "Gidge, after you're officially transferred to Beijing, will you come to see me often?" As Fu Anming looked at the young woman before him, the sister he had watched grow up, a wave of complex emotions washed over him. Su Xiaqing's father was the village party secretary. That year, when a mudslide struck the village, it was he who shielded Fu Anming with his own body. In his final moments, Secretary Su's only concern was his only daughter. With tears in his eyes, he entrusted Su Xiaqing's care to Fu Anming. Fu Anming agreed without hesitation. Little did he know that this promise of care would span over a decade. For Fu Anming, protecting and caring for Su Xiaqing had long become second nature. Whatever she desired, he would find a way to bring it to her. Yet this bone-deep favoritism led Su Xiaqing to misunderstand his intentions and drove Jiang Ningxue to leave him for good. Now that Su Xiaqing has been admitted to university, his duty is finally over. He intends to spend the rest of his life seeking Jiang Ningxue's forgiveness. Fu Anming pressed a wad of cash into Su Xiaqing's hand and spoke slowly. Xiaqing, from now on, you'll have to walk your own path. Su Xiaqing's eyes instantly welled up with tears. Brother, are you abandoning me? You're all grown up now. I need to devote myself completely to protecting the one I love. Goodbye, Xiaqing. Watching the man's retreating back without a hint of hesitation, Su Xiaqing gritted her teeth so hard they nearly shattered. Jiang Ningxue, how is it that for 2 lifetimes, you're the one who gets Fu Anming's love? Her hand trembled uncontrollably as it clutched the envelope, her gaze fixed on the direction Fu Anming had departed with the intensity of a predator eyeing its prey. Did you really think you could shake me off? I won't let you have your way. Early the next morning, Fu Anming collected the custom-made pocket watch from the shop. Its appearance was identical to the one he had destroyed. Unable to find a photograph of Jiang Ningquan, he had no choice but to place the picture of Jiang Ningxue from their wedding photo inside it. He knew it was a far cry from the one she'd had before, but he just wanted Jiang Ningxue to know where he stood. He was willing to spend the rest of his life making it up to her, with a heart full of heavy hope. Fu Anming once again walked to the front of the Jiang family's courtyard. Waiting for Jiang Ningxue to come out, he didn't have to wait long. Soon, the familiar door opened, and Jiang Ningxue walked out hand in hand with Xia Yichen. Do you have a lot of classes today? Xia Yichen said affectionately. Let me pick you up for lunch. Jiang Ningxue shook her head and leaned against his shoulder. I have a meeting with the astronomy club at noon. There was a meteor shower coming up, and Jiang Ningxue and her classmates were using it as the subject for a special report they were preparing. Alright, don't overwork yourself. Xia Yichen loved seeing her strive for her dreams. Like a vibrant little sun, Jiang Ningxue stood on her tiptoes and planted a kiss on Xia Yichen's cheek. Got it, she said. The sound of something hitting the ground caught their attention. Curious, Jiang Ningxue pulled Xia Yichen out into the courtyard, only to find it empty. Save for a single pocket watch lying quietly on the ground, Jiang Ningxue recognized the pocket watch instantly, and her expression turned cold. Xia Yichen picked it up and took a look. He was so exasperated he almost laughed. After removing the photo of Jiang Ningxue, he threw the pocket watch to the ground. What a damn nuisance. Under the blazing afternoon sun, the pocket watch caught the light, sending a brilliant flash. 2 children found it and began tossing it back and forth like a beanbag, until one careless throw sent it tumbling into a filthy gutter. The mud swallowed up its intricate engravings. As the foul water continued to flow, the watch was completely buried under a layer of trash. By the time Su Xiaqing found Fu Anming in his dormitory that evening, he had already downed 2 bottles of baijiu and was completely wasted. Brother, is she really worth putting yourself through all this? Su Xiaqing surveyed the wreckage of the room. The man she had always seen as a pillar of strength now lay curled on the floor, weeping like a child who had lost his most cherished toy. Xiaqing, she's really left me. What am I supposed to do? Fu Anming was utterly devastated, having witnessed Jiang Ningxue kiss another man that morning. A wave of jealous rage had consumed him, driving him to the brink of wanting to charge over and kill Xia Yichen. Su Xiaqing took his hand and pressed it against her heart, gazing at him with deep affection. I want you, brother, let's be together, I'll never leave you. Fu Anming's pupils constricted, he shoved her to the ground violently, then frantically pulled out a handful of tissues to scrub his palm. I can't touch anyone else. It's a defilement to Xiaxue. She'll never come back to me if I do. Su Xiaqing's back slammed into a table leg, causing several wine bottles to wobble and crash to the floor. The spilled liquor splashed all over her. She got up, seething with resentment, when her eyes suddenly fell upon the red cheongsam lying on the bed. A moment later, she emerged from the bathroom, changed, and glided gracefully to Fu Anming's side. Anming, I'm back. Fu Anming's clouded eyes shifted. In his blurred vision, Jiang Yingxue stood before him wearing the qipao he had given her, gently stroking his face just as she used to. Xiaoxue, have you forgiven me? He held the girl in his arms with deep affection. Su Shaoqing patted his back and said softly, I never blamed you, Anming. Fu Anming swept Su Shaoqing up and onto the bed. They locked eyes for a moment before their lips met in a fervent kiss. At noon the next day, Xia Chen was taking Jiang Yingxue home for a meal when Fu Anming's driver intercepted them before they could even step through the front door. Comrade Jiang, Director Fu has a gift he'd like to give you. Please come with me. Jiang Yingxue frowned. No, thank you. Please tell him I don't need his gift. With that, she turned to leave. The driver stepped forward, looking somewhat awkward as he blocked their path. Comrade Jiang, the director said if you just accept this gift, he'll leave you alone for good. Xia Chen gave a derisive snort. Since when does the gift giver summon the recipient to come collect it? That's not how it's done. The driver was also an acquaintance from Jiang Yingshue's time at the factory, and she didn't want to put him in a difficult position. After confirming that Fu Anming had indeed said he wouldn't bother her again, she relented. Lead the way. Xia Chen, feeling uneasy, decided to go along with them. As soon as the driver opened the dormitory door, the pungent smell of alcohol hit them. Jiang Yingxue asked, fighting back her disgust, where's the gift? Director Fu said it's in the bedroom. The reply came, Comrade Jiang is to fetch it herself. Xia Chen pushed the door open, half in disbelief. Before Jiang Yingxue could react, he covered her eyes, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. Fu Anming, have you lost your mind? Roused from a pleasant dream, Fu Anming's first instinct upon seeing Xia Chen was to pull the blanket up to cover the girl in his arms. Comrade Xia, who gave you the authority to barge into my dormitory without permission? Jiang Yingxue had already grasped the scene inside the room. She spoke coldly. Fu Anming, is this what you wanted me to see? Should I congratulate you and Su Shaoqing on finally being together? Hearing Jiang Yingshue's voice from outside the door, Fu Anming was momentarily stunned. If Jiang Yingxue was outside the bedroom, then the person in his bed, trembling, he pulled back the covers and met Su Shaoqing's timid gaze. Brother, Fu Anming let out a frantic, uncontrolled shout, scrambling and stumbling out of bed as he bolted for the door. No, Xiaoxue, let me explain. Before he could finish, Xia Chen kicked him to the ground, his head slammed against the bedpost, and blood began to trickle out. Xiaoxue, I swear I didn't. I was drunk last night. I thought it was you. Fu Anming knelt on the floor, his face buried in his hands, lacking the courage to even crawl towards Jiang Yingxue. Fu Anming, you make me sick. Jiang Yingxue left those words hanging in the air as she turned and walked away. It was a long while before Fu Anming managed to pull himself up from the ground. Blood streamed down his face, and his handsome features were contorted into a mask of pure fury. Su Shaoqing looked into Fu Anming's eyes, filled with hatred and agony, and felt fear for the very first time. Cowering in the corner, she pleaded through tear-blurred eyes, Brother, I was wrong, please forgive me, I just loved you too much. Fu Anming lunged forward and seized her by the throat, his grip so tight the veins bulged in his hand. You bitch, I'll kill you, I'll kill you. Su Shaoqing gasped for air, her eyes rolling back as she kicked her legs in agony. I just loved you, what did I do wrong? Fu Anming threw Su Shaoqing to the floor and looked down at her, watching coldly as she coughed uncontrollably. Brother, it's come to this, whether you like it or not, you have to marry me now. Su Shaoqing coughed, a trickle of blood appearing at the corner of her mouth. Facing the furious Fu Anming, she still felt she had won, yet Fu Anming found the very sight of her utterly repulsive. He threw her clothes to the floor and declared coldly, I will turn myself in at the police station. I would rather face a firing squad than marry you. When news of Fu Anming's imprisonment reached the northwest, the factory leadership sent several urgent telegrams inquiring about the situation. They said that if there was even the slightest doubt, they would find a way to protect him. Yet, in prison, Fu Anming stubbornly insisted that he was the one who had raped Su Shaoqing. Upon hearing this, Jiang Yingxue offered no comment. After a long moment of contemplation, Jiang Bai instead remarked, even so, he still wants to protect Su Shaoqing's reputation. Xia Chen sat on the sofa, peeling an apple for Jiang Yingxue, and said nothing. He went to see Fu Anming on the day he was sent to prison. The man was shrouded in darkness, the will to live gone from his eyes. Xiaoxue will never come back to me. I don't want to live anymore. Comrade Xia, just have them execute me. Xia Chen looked coldly at the broken man. Judging you is the court's business. But I still want you to tell the truth. They're evaluating model work units right now. Don't bring shame on your factory." A week after Fu Anming was imprisoned, Jiang Yingxue went about her usual routine of attending classes, her composure so complete it was as if she had never known him. Su Shaqing knew that if she exposed herself, her life would be forfeit, yet, with no connections or background in Jingbei, she didn't even know where to beg for help. As the trial date loomed closer, she turned to Jiang Yingxue. "You want me to help you save Fu Anming?" Jiang Yingxue asked, looking at the disheveled Su Shaqing before her. Su Shaqing's eyes were red-rimmed, the feigned meekness and obedience she had shown before had vanished completely, replaced by a face etched with nothing but cold calculation and malice. "I don't need your help, but I actually do need you to be a bridge," with a sinister tone. She finished speaking, then drew a knife from behind her back and lunged at Jiang Yingxue. The moment the blade sliced through the air, Jiang Yingxue's heart stopped. The instant of her death in her past life flashed before her eyes like a reel of film. Could it be that even across 2 lifetimes, she was fated to die young? Jiang Yingxue closed her eyes in despair, but the pain she anticipated never came. Threatened by Su Shaqing, she was forced onto the rooftop. The students below, seeing the scene, screamed in terror and frantically called the police. By the time Xia Yichen arrived after receiving the news, the scene was already completely swarmed by police and reporters. Seeing the knife at Jiang Yingxue's throat, his voice trembled. "Su Shaqing, just don't hurt her. You can have anything you want." Su Shaqing pressed close to Jiang Yingxue's ear and hissed viciously. "Jiang Yingxue, why is your life so charmed? Why does everyone flock to you? Why, after 2 lifetimes, do I still end up like this?" Jiang Yingxue's body went rigid, and in her heart, she could only feel pity for Su Shaqing. "If you live your whole life for just one man, you're destined to end up with nothing." Su Shaqing sneered coldly. "Jiang Yingxue, what I despise most is your holier-than-thou attitude. You understand nothing. You have no idea what Fu Anming means to me. I would give anything, everything, to save him." The next moment, she turned to face the reporter's cameras and declared, "Let me tell you this, I am a reborn soul from the future. Agree to my demands, and I will reveal the major events that are destined to unfold." A brief hush fell over the crowd, broken by a single, jarring snort of derision. Su Shaqing tightened her grip on the knife's hilt. "You don't believe me? In 3 days, the south will be hit by floods. In half a month, an earthquake will strike the west. You can just wait and see it happen for yourselves." Everyone looked at Su Shaqing as if she were crazy, but only Jiang Yingxue knew that everything she said was true. The earthquake in the West District that year claimed over 1,000 lives, and for years afterward, everyone lived under the shadow of that tragedy. Xia Yichen stepped forward. "I believe you," he said. Su Shaqing looked at him with a hint of suspicion. Xia Yichen raised his hands and took 2 steps toward her. "You know my position and authority. I believe everything you've said. State your terms. I want full immunity for all my actions today." "Granted. Release Fu Anming." Xia Yichen didn't even blink. "No problem." As the reporter's cameras clicked incessantly, Su Shaqing, seeing him make such a promise in front of everyone, couldn't help but believe him a little. Seizing the moment of her distraction, Xia Yichen dashed over, knocked the knife from her hand, and pulled Jiang Yingxue into his arms. Clutching her nearly broken right hand, Su Shaqing roared, "You lied to me. I'll kill you all." Before she could pick up the knife again, the police officers behind Xia Yichen swarmed forward, pinning the struggling Su Shaqing to the ground and cuffing her. Although he wasn't injured, Xia Yichen insisted on taking Jiang Yingxue to the hospital for a checkup. "Yichen, do you really believe what Su Shaqing said?" Jiang Yingxue hesitated for a moment, but asked the question anyway. Xia Yichen chuckled and tapped her on the head. "Of course I don't believe it. How could reincarnation be real in this world? I think she's lost her mind." Jiang Yingxue's heart sank, but the disaster was already at their doorstep. She couldn't just stand by and do nothing. "Yichen, what if I told you that everything Su Shaqing said is true?" 3 days later, newspapers were flooded with reports of catastrophic floods in the south, which had submerged countless villages and farmland. Emergency military units were dispatched for rescue operations, with devastating losses reported. Meanwhile, an obscure tabloid began publishing Su Shaqing's rooftop prophecy from that day, highlighting the words earthquake in bold red. This immediately sowed widespread panic, causing the price of grain to skyrocket. In her prison cell, Su Shaqing was muttering a countdown under her breath. The moment she reached 1, 2 police officers approached, unlocked the door, and spoke in an icy tone, Su Xiaoqing, you have a visitor. A smug smile curled at the corner of Su Xiaoqing's lips. 2 days later, Fu Anming was acquitted and released, but was demoted to a basic-level worker due to misconduct. As he was leaving Jingbei, he went to the Jiang family's doorstep one last time, hoping to catch a final glimpse of Jiang Ningxue. What he didn't know was that Jiang Ningxue had long since departed for the northwest with Xia Yichen to make early preparations for earthquake relief work. Inside the tent, Xia Yichen was taking stock of the rescue team's supplies when Jiang Ningxue walked in with a cup of hot tea. Yichen, come have some water, she said. That day, after she had confessed everything, she expected Xia Yichen not to believe her, or even to think she was out of her mind. To her surprise, he only pondered for a moment before saying, I'll apply for disaster preparedness measures in the northwest. He even personally took on the role of captain of the preliminary rescue team and headed to the northwest with Jiang Ningxue. Jiang Ningxue looked at the man before her, who trusted her unconditionally. A surge of emotion, like an incoming tide, nearly overwhelmed her. Yichen, once all this is over, we'll. Before he could finish, the ground suddenly heaved violently, and the camp's alarm sirens blared. Earthquake. When Fu Anming arrived at the worst-hit area with the factory volunteer team, the village before them had been reduced to rubble. Amidst the swirling dust, the air was filled with the sounds of crying and desperate calls for help, and the metallic scent of blood hung heavy. They had just experienced an aftershock, and rocks continued to fall from above, posing a serious threat to the safety of the rescue workers. Suddenly, a medical worker rushed over and shouted, It's bad. Comrades Xia Yichen and Jiang Ningxue were in the middle of a rescue when the aftershock hit. They're trapped under the rubble now. Fu Anming's face paled. He threw himself onto the pile of debris that had buried Jiang Ningxue. Don't be afraid, Xiaoxue. I'm here. His hands were quickly scraped raw and bloodied by the coarse gravel, but he didn't stop for a second. Terrified that if he was even a moment too late, he would find Jiang Ningxue's lifeless body. I'll get you out of here, Xiaoxue. I promise. Beneath the rubble, Xia Yichen held Jiang Ningxue tightly in his arms, his shoulders alone bearing the crushing weight above them. Groping for his face in the darkness, Jiang Ningxue asked anxiously, Yichen, are you alright? Are you hurt anywhere? Xia Yichen answered softly, I'm fine, don't be afraid, I'm here with you. Hearing this, Jiang Ningxue let out a sigh of relief. Then let's hold on a little longer, they'll come to rescue us soon. The wait in the silence was agonizing, a torment unbearable even for someone who had already died once. Jiang Ningxue curled up in Xia Yichen's arms, not daring to move. Xiaoxue, I've actually liked you for a very long time, Xia Yichen said suddenly. How long? Since middle school. Xia Yichen smiled. You might not believe it, he said, but I fell for you the very first time I saw you as a kid. While all the other children in the compound were running around bare-bottomed, playing in the mud, Jiang Ningxue would sit on a swing in her clean dress, weaving flower baskets. Compared to the rowdy bunch, she was like a little princess straight out of a storybook. Later, when Xia Yichen learned that Jiang Ningxue was to be his future wife, he was so overjoyed he couldn't sleep all night. He took out a notebook and wrote down all the ways he would treat her well after they married, promising to buy her beautiful cars and dresses. Even after Jiang Ningxue ran away from their wedding and married someone else, Xia Yichen's feelings for her never wavered in the slightest. What a pity. Xia Yichen gazed at his lover's silhouette in the darkness. Just when he was closest to his dream, something unexpected happened. Xiaoxue, you've always been a strong girl. If I'm not around in the future, you'll still be fine, won't you? Jiang Ningxue's body stiffened as she turned around in disbelief. Yichen, what are you saying? Are you hurt somewhere? As she spoke, she reached out to touch Xia Yichen. Xia Yichen grasped her hand. I'm fine, don't be scared, I'm just talking about a hypothetical. Xiaoxue, you'll be happy even without me. Jiang Ningxue's tears fell like rain. She cupped his face in her hands, shaking her head desperately. No, Yichen. I'll never be okay without you, not in this lifetime. Please, don't leave me. Xia Yichen's heart ached as if it were about to shatter. For the last time, he drew his beloved into his arms and uttered a sighing phrase. Xiaoxue, I love you. The next second, his hand fell away from Jiang Ningxue's back. Yichen, Jiang Ningxue had a long, long dream. In it, she died tragically on the operating table on New Year's Eve because Fu Anming had an affair with Su Xiaoqing. After death, she became a wandering spirit, sitting in a daze before her own tombstone. Then one day, Xia Yichen braved the wind and snow to rush to her grave. With a face full of grief, He offered a bouquet of Gerber daisies, her favorite flower in life. Jiang Yingxue followed him home and discovered that this man's house was filled with photos from her performances. Every night, in the deep quiet, the man would hold her photo and weep bitterly. "Please don't cry." Jiang Yingxue murmured words he couldn't hear. "If I'd known you loved me this much, I might as well have married you." "Alright then, if there's a next life, I'll marry you." A sudden burst of applause snapped Jiang Yingxue out of her thoughts, and she realized she was standing on the restaurant stage. Jiang Bai and the Xia parents watched with eager anticipation, seemingly waiting for her to speak. The officiant cleared his throat and asked once more, "Comrade Jiang Yingxue, do you take Comrade Xia Yichen to be your husband?" Jiang Yingxue's gaze fell upon Xia Yichen's face. The scar from the earthquake still marked his profile, yet it did nothing to diminish his handsome features. "I do. I was willing a long time ago," Jiang Yingxue thought to herself. After the ceremony, Jiang Yingxue and Xia Yichen went to toast the guests and spotted Fu Anming in a corner. She walked over with graceful composure and raised her glass to him. "Thank you, Fu Anming." Fu Anming knew she was referring to that day at the earthquake site, when he had risked his own safety to save the two of them. "You're welcome, I did it willingly." Jiang Yingxue had been drinking and was about to move to the next table when Fu Anming suddenly asked in a low voice, "If I hadn't let Su Shaqing move in that day, would we have grown old together? Do you think so?" Recalling the miserable death of her past life, Jiang Yingxue shook her head with a sense of acceptance. "No, it won't." In truth, Fu Anming had imagined this scenario countless times himself, yet, no matter which version he envisioned, as long as Su Shaqing remained in his heart, he and Jiang Yingxue were destined for a tragic end. With one last look at the dazzling Jiang Yingxue in the crowd, he turned and stepped into a winter that would last the rest of his life, a winter without snow. Story 2, In my past life. To repay the debt I owed my parents, Shinan was the first to save me from the fire, abandoning his own younger sister. Afterwards, he watched helplessly as the charred body was wrapped in a white sheet and carried away, then knelt before me. He said, "Shanyan is gone, would you be my little sister instead?" I agreed through my tears. I thought it was a mutual salvation, two people who had lost family clinging to each other. He gave me all his affection, but in all the days that followed, I wasn't Shenyan. Yet I lived as Shenyan. I gradually hid my true self, learning to walk, play the piano, and come in first in class just like her, all because my brother said that's what a younger sister should be like. And so, without a second thought, I kept up that pretense for 10 years. It wasn't until the day of my car accident, when I was left disfigured beyond recognition, that he held my lifeless body and cried out for Shan Yan. "But, you always cared so much about your appearance." It was only then I realized that from the day my own sister was carried away, I had become nothing but a permanent substitute in his eyes. Given a second chance at life, I personally pushed Shen Yan out of the fire. I heard my brother holding her, weeping uncontrollably. "Thank goodness, this time it wasn't you." At that moment, I just really missed Mom and Dad. They were the only ones who truly loved me. Hello everyone, and welcome to Glimmering Whispers of Love. The year I turned 12, I attended my parents' funeral. All the relatives who came to pay their respects said I was born under a lucky star. Old Jiang and his wife saved the Shin family's only son. Even though they're gone, they've left their child set for life. TSK, this little girl's fortune is truly blessed. Her birth parents were the Shin family's driver and maid, and now they've saved their masters. Her future life will be smooth sailing beyond measure. How enviable. She's transformed from a country bumpkin into a phoenix overnight, not like my own girl, doomed to a wretched fate. Amidst the chorus of admiration, I was the only one hiding in the corner, clutching a stuffed rabbit in a daze. It was the gift my parents had promised to bring me before they left. The rabbit came back, but they were placed in a box. My tears began to fall without warning, each one hitting the ground. It wasn't until the man named Shannon appeared. I knelt before him, my cheek pressed against the cold ground, and pleaded, "I don't want to be a phoenix, just bring my mom and dad back." He clumsily wiped away my tears, his own eyes rimmed red with guilt. "Starting today, how about I become your family? I'll give you all my love, just like Uncle Jiang and Aunt Jiang did. I'll give you a home again." Shannon kept his word. He showed me a level of favoritism that was almost excessive. Even more than what he gave his own sister, to help me through the pain of losing my parents. He spent every moment after work by my side. He even brought me back to the Shin family, making me a part of it. However, his own sister, Shin Yan, despised me. "You should have died with your parents," how dare you try to steal my brother, how dare you move into my house, she screamed hysterically, lashing out at me with punches and kicks for suddenly appearing in her home. Shen Yan threw all my belongings out. In the chaos, the family photo of me with my parents was shattered into pieces. This is my and my brother's home, you are not allowed to stay here. She tilted her head up, pointed arrogantly at the door, and ordered me to leave. The words had barely left her mouth when Shannon slapped her hard across the face. Under Shen Yan's incredulous gaze, he turned his face away with difficulty, his voice hoarse. Shan Yan, who said you could make a scene? Apologize to Wan Wan. He forced Shen Yan to echo my apology and picked up the shattered photo frame from the floor for me. He spoke softly to soothe me. It's Shan Yan's fault. I'll make sure she learns her lesson. I'm on your side, big brother. Yet I saw clearly that the hand which had delivered the slap was trembling uncontrollably. Deep down, I understood. I was just an orphan living under someone else's roof. I wanted to tell Shen Yan that I wouldn't steal her home or her brother's affection. I was only staying here temporarily, because no relative was willing to take in a burden like me. But when I reached the doorway, I couldn't bring myself to take another step. From inside the room came Shen Yan's voice, full of concern. As he carefully applied medicine to his sister's cheek and gently blew on it, Shen Yan was nestled in his arms, crying, "Brother, you've never once hit me in my entire life. Just because she lost her own family, does that mean she gets to steal mine? I won't accept it. Can't you just make her leave?" He let out a helpless sigh. After all, Uncle Jiang and Aunt Jiang saved your life. If we turn our backs on her now, the Shen family will become a laughingstock. Be good, Shan Yan. We'll just take care of her until she's 18, then she'll leave. Okay, you're your brother's only family, his most beloved little sister. Shen Yan let out a petulant huff, whining for her brother to ignore Jiang Wanwan. The man's soft, coaxing voice buzzed incessantly in my ear. It was like a muffled roll of thunder, indistinct and hard to make out. It made me mistake him for my father. Before I turned 10, he would often lift me up and swing me through the air. He said I was his only daughter, his most cherished treasure. I ate my meals and went to school with great caution, and at night, I would secretly hold my stuffed rabbit and cry. I avoided Shen Yan. But Shannon hoped I could get along well with her. We've spoiled Shan Yan since she was little. You're a year older, so as her big sister, could you please be more patient with her? His palm was so warm. I nodded stiffly, unwilling to leave, lost in a love I knew was just an act. But my sister still couldn't stand me. I became her on-call servant. Aunt Shen was our maid. Her job was to serve me. You're her daughter, and now that she's dead, it's your turn. If you don't listen to me, I'll kick you out of my house. That was until she told me to light the fire, only to play with fire and get burned. She ended up torching the entire garage. She tossed the lit lighter into the pile of fuel tanks, tilting her head back with reckless abandon. If my brother finds out you burned his favorite car, you're done for. I hope you hate me forever. Get out, you rotten kid. But she had underestimated the sheer terror of gasoline. A wall of fire erupted instantly, engulfing everything. Shen Yan was completely stunned. She broke down in terrified sobs, but the garage door was already firmly shut behind her. Sweating profusely with panic, I dragged my leg, seared by the raging flames, towards the fire extinguisher, only to black out completely. I woke up again. Shen Yan had become a corpse, stripped of hair and skin. All I remember is the sun was scorching that day, yet my entire body was ice cold. A wave of immense panic washed over me, and I curled up on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Time crawled by like a snail, each passing second suffocating. Would Shannon hate me? Hate me for failing to watch over his sister, for costing him his family? I dared not cry, forcing the tears to pool in my eyes with all my might. Shen Yan was carried away under a white sheet, yet Shannon knelt before me. He said, "Shan Yan is gone, would you be my sister instead?" The tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over. He pulled me into his arms, his voice impossibly gentle. "From now on, we're family." I felt like a complete fool, nestled in his arms. In that moment, I truly believed we would become a family. Shannon was the brother I could always rely on. Look, Mom and Dad, Wanwan will never be mocked as an orphan again. I envy Shen Yan. Mom and Dad are always busy with work. They spend less time with me than they do with the Shen siblings. As the child her parents had late in life, Shen Yan is the undisputed little princess of the household. After their parents passed away, her brother doted on her even more, treating her like a precious treasure. She had the audacity to act spoiled and unreasonable without a care. and the nerve to feel justified even when she was in the wrong. Yet, during those formative years without my parents, I was always afraid of being a burden to others. Now, Shannon says he wants to be my brother. Will he treat me the same way he treats Shanyin? A dark, inexplicable glee crept in, like a flower blooming in secret underground, making my heart pound. I couldn't help but despise myself. I was awful, actually feeling happy about taking someone else's brother. I moved into the room closest to Shannon. He would gently wake me up, personally walk me to school, and show concern for every little detail of my life there. He even bought me clothes regularly and brought me gifts whenever he was away on business trips. It felt as if I had truly become a part of the family, just like his own little sister. More than once, I secretly felt overjoyed, gazing at my parents' photo frame with a blissful, silly smile. I have a new home now, and my brother is very kind to me. It's as if I've truly become Shanyin, even though I look nothing like Shanyin. And I can't dance or play the piano, even though I've started to realize my brother is acting more and more strangely. He would suddenly call me out to practice the piano, playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star over and over again. This is your favorite piano piece, and the first song your brother ever taught you, do you remember? Under his gentle gaze, I struggled to maintain the stiff smile on my face. At the dinner table, he kept putting carrots into my bowl. You love radishes so much. Have some more. But that was my most hated dish. I forced it into my mouth and immediately felt sick, wanting to spit it out. When I looked up, I saw my brother's face darken instantly, his eyes fixed intently on me. It wasn't until I swallowed it down again that a smile finally appeared on my brother's face. Time and time again, I kept telling myself he was just used to it, used to his little sister playing the piano, loving carrots, and skipping as she walked. So I threw myself into learning, molding myself into the image of Shanyin. I understood his pain all too well, silently bearing it with a heart full of guilt and a dark, secret anticipation. I just kept hoping that one day he'd realize the sister by his side was me. I just genuinely wanted my brother's love, to truly become part of his family, but I was so completely wrong. How could a stranger possibly treat me like their closest person for no reason at all? It wasn't until the day I died that I finally knew. The man I had sincerely called brother for 10 whole years, it turns out, actually hated me. On the day I was killed by a car, my fiancé, Qing Yufeng, finally showed up. He was Shen Yan's childhood sweetheart, and also the person who despised me the most. For 10 years, no matter how hard I tried to please him, he never truly accepted me in his heart. If Shanyan were still here, how could it ever be your turn? A maid's daughter, to be my fiancé. Shannon must be out of his mind, actually raising you as if you were his own sister. And now, faced with my corpse, he merely turned his head away. She's had it easy for far too long, living under Shanyan's name. But my brother just stood there, stunned. Getting hit by a car would have been quick, but to be burned alive, the agony Shanyan must have felt. She was always so afraid of pain, so particular about her looks. The slightest scratch and she'd come running to me, fussing and carrying on. She was such a delicate thing. It's my fault. I spoiled her for 11 years, and just when Jiang Wanwan showed up, I neglected her feelings. She probably resented me until her dying breath. He casually dumped me on the side of the road. After holding it in for a long time, he finally let out a scornful laugh, yet the words he spoke were more chilling than the water in the deepest abyss. You must be pretty pleased with yourself, taking Shanyan's place, aren't you? What a pity, in my eyes. You'll never measure up to my real sister. How pathetic. To think you had the nerve to call me brother for 10 whole years. Without a moment's hesitation, he turned and left, driving straight to Shen Yan's gravesite. As for Qing Yufeng, he merely made a call to have someone handle the arrangements, unwilling to spare another glance. The onlookers whispered among themselves, how come no one is taking care of this poor girl's body? Her relatives came, one after another, and just left. She must have been a truly wicked person in life. We should keep our distance, lest we catch her bad luck. Exactly, so young. What could she have done to be so despised that no one can even bear to look at her now? Yeah, just how utterly detestable must someone be, that you wouldn't even want to see them again after death. In that moment, my faith came crashing down. My corpse seemed to have fallen into the dust, taking with it the last shred of decency and dignity, leaving nothing behind. Can a soul weep, or else I feel like I'm about to cry again? 6. I thought I was already dead. I never could have imagined, in my utter despair, I somehow found myself back on that day 10 years ago, the day Shen Yan played with fire and got herself burned. hearing Shen En's terrified shouts outside the door, I fought against my fading consciousness, grabbed Shen Yan's hand, and shoved her out. The collapsing structure cut off my only path to survival. I fell, completely and finally, in a daze. In my ears, I could hear Shannon holding his sister and weeping uncontrollably, yet before my eyes, the image of my parents lifting me up appeared. So this is what family truly feels like. Only true family will love you unconditionally, without asking for anything in return. But why did it take me so long to understand this? The searing flames dried my tears, and with those tears, the word brother vanished completely from my world. In this new life, I didn't manage to die. Something fell from the ceiling and burned off almost all the skin on my right leg. The smell of antiseptic was overpowering. I squeezed my eyes shut, fighting back the sting in my nose. I was consumed with frustration. Mom and Dad both came to pick me up, so why didn't they take me with them? But the sharp pain in my leg snapped me back to reality. Shen Yan's sobs broke the silence. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to teach Jiang Wanwan a lesson, to make my brother dislike her. I never meant to hurt her. As she spoke, she started acting up again. Ever since she arrived, you've stopped paying any attention to me. Shannon let out a sigh. You're right, I was wrong. I'll make sure to look after our Xian Yan properly from now on. Shen Yan looked at my leg, which was exposed on the hospital bed, and covered her eyes in disgust. Her leg is so ugly, all dark and black. What if she wakes up and tries to get revenge on me? I don't want to get taken to the police station. Shannon let out a soft chuckle at her childish words. Don't worry, I'll protect you, he murmured. It's just a leg. But my sister lost her life entirely. Under Shen Yan's puzzled gaze, he affectionately patted his sister's head. Go with the doctor for a checkup. Let's see if you're hurt anywhere else. The ward was quiet without Shen Yan's playful laughter, yet his voice rang out with startling clarity. How could the child of a nanny and a driver ever compare to my own flesh and blood? My sister Shannon. My pillow felt damp, yet, it was him, the very one who had promised me a home and sworn to love me forever. And now, the very same man calls me worthless and wishes I would just vanish from this world. Shannon, if you don't want me as your sister, then I don't want to be one either. I struggled to open my eyes, meeting Shannon's gaze. Under his fierce glare, the next moment, I found myself uttering in confusion, "Who are you?" Shannon was momentarily stunned and blurted out, "What did you say?" I shook my head vigorously, then looked up at him as if suddenly remembering something. "You're the young master Shen. Where are my parents?" The air seemed to suddenly grow still. Shannon almost fled in a panic. He had considered 100 different ways to handle the situation once Jiang Wanwan woke up. He could treat her like a servant's daughter, keeping her at home to do chores, or he could find a place for her outside, hire a nanny to look after her. As long as he could provide for her until she turned 18, any method would do. He had even thought that the first thing he'd do when Jiang Wanwan woke up was to forbid her from calling him brother, just to avoid upsetting Shan Yan, but it had never crossed his mind that Jiang Wanwan would lose her memory. He rushed to confront the doctor. The doctor explained that she had been struck on the head by a heavy object, causing a cerebral hematoma, and it was likely she had forgotten some painful memories. How could he even begin to say it? Her parents had toiled for the Shin family for half their lives, only to lose their own trying to save him, with her dying breath. Even as she knelt on the ground, Aunt Shen had begged him to take care of her only daughter. Shen En's face turned deathly pale. He hadn't anticipated Jiang Wanwan's transformation. Even the repeated calls of young master and her icy gaze left him utterly disconcerted. In the past, when she called him brother, her eyes were always full of reliance. After Shannon returned, he explained our parents' situation to me. He couldn't help but ask, "Are you scared of living alone from now on?" I blinked back my tears, trying to look nonchalant, and forced a smile in his direction. "It's all right, young master. I've often lived by myself before anyway. Mom and Dad always said, Wanwan is the bravest." I could clearly see the conflict in his eyes, but I chose not to call him out on it. Shen Yan never liked me and had long wanted me out of the Shen household. In this new life, Shannon was still basking in the joy of having his sister back. And fearing I might usurp her place as the young lady of the Shen family, he naturally had no intention of taking me back. I gave a slight, indifferent shrug. "Anyway, I don't want to have anything to do with the Jiang family anymore. Once my leg heals, I'll go back to my mother's hometown and leave their world behind for good." But Shannon couldn't stand my indifferent attitude. He frowned and spoke up quickly. "I'll be your guardian. I'll take care of you until you come of age. Even through university." as for taking you back to the Shin family, it wouldn't be impossible to raise you as a servant's child. He stiffly reached out a hand to touch me, but I instinctively flinched away. That won't be necessary, young master, we are not related, it wouldn't be proper. I stared into his eyes and threw his own words right back at him. Besides, I know my place, I'm just the daughter of a nanny and a driver. I don't deserve to eat and live under the same roof as you. Shannon withdrew his hand in frustration, his expression darkening. Suit yourself, he stormed off, his retreating figure radiating fury, his tone sharp and angry. I don't get it, isn't this exactly what he wanted? Now that I'm the one saying he doesn't need to take responsibility, why is he angry again? After my parents passed, not a single relative from the Jiang family was willing to take me in. But what I never expected was for my mother's brother to come looking for me. I'm so confused. In my past life, my uncle clearly had no knowledge of my parents passing. From what I remember, my uncle's family was poor, yet they were still putting my 2 older cousins through university. My mother had also married far from home. Given the nature of my parents' jobs, they rarely even got time off, let alone had the chance to visit. My only memories of my uncle's family are the sweet potatoes and the soft, glutinous rice they would send us from 1,000 miles away during the holidays. How on earth did he manage to find the hospital? Seeing my uncle's kind yet anxious expression, I couldn't stop the tears from streaming down my face. It was like suddenly seeing family. All the pent-up grievances came pouring out. Seeing me in such a state, my uncle swallowed the harsh words on the tip of his tongue. He couldn't help but cry with me, all the while scolding me. You little rascal, keeping such a big secret from me. If someone hadn't tipped him off, he'd still be completely in the dark. Does the wound hurt? Don't cry now. Once you're better, your uncle will take you home. I'll look after you, no matter how old you get. I nodded frantically, my tears turning into a smile. My uncle looked at my sunken cheeks with a pained heart. You've lost so much weight. Are you short on money? Have you paid the medical bills yet? Here, let me. Before he could finish, the hospital room door was flung open. Shen Yan stood with her arms crossed. Jiang Wanwan, why do you have so many poor relatives coming to beg for money? You're not trying to bleed our family dry and still have the nerve to cling on here, are you? She tugged at Shen Yan's sleeve. Brother, I told you Jiang Wanwan's whole family are shameless leeches, but you wouldn't believe me. Shen Yan's expression was grim as well. After Uncle Jiang and Aunt Jiang passed away, every distant relative in the Jiang family shamelessly came sniffing around for the compensation money. The whole lot of them were up to no good. Just when we thought we'd gotten rid of one crowd, here comes another. Judging by those shabby clothes, this one's definitely here to play the pity card and ask for money. Shannon couldn't help but say with disgust, Jiang Wanwan, even when asking for money, you should know your limits. You're so young, yet so calculating. I've already given you a full 10 million, and I promise to support you until you come of age. What? Do you actually want to play the part of a Shin family heiress and get a share of the inheritance? I was taken aback. Where did this 10 million come from? I haven't seen a single cent. The disgust in Shen Yan's eyes deepened. He hadn't expected me to be not only insatiably greedy but also a liar. Cut the act. I clearly left you a card with 10 million. I glanced at Shen Yan's evasive eyes beside me, and everything became clear. I bet even my uncle's arrival was arranged by Shen Yan. Thinking they'd come to demand money, I pointed to the corner. Aren't there security cameras over there? You can check who actually took that card. I've never taken a single cent from you, and I won't be a bother to you in the future. In fact, I'll be leaving this district soon. Heading far down south. Young master, you can rest completely assured. Shannon let out a bitter laugh. How had he never realized Jiang Wanwan could be so stubborn? I'll bring you back to the Shin family when you finally admit you're wrong. Was he really so sure that I was desperate to go back to the Shin family? In these past 10 years, who was it that never truly moved on, him or me? I spent a month recuperating in the hospital, and in all that time I never saw Shannon again. It seemed he truly meant what he said, that he would only take me back to the Shin family once I admitted defeat, but on the day I was discharged, I went straight to the school to withdraw, limping along. I finished the formalities with my uncle. When I went back to the classroom to pack my things, school had already let out. The students at this school were all from wealthy or influential families, making me the odd one out, while Mrs. Shin was alive. She wanted my parents to be closer to their child so they wouldn't have to take frequent leave, so, out of a sense of charity, she arranged for me to attend this school. Because of Shen Yan, everyone knows I'm the daughter of the Shin family's housekeeper and chauffeur. On my very first day at the new school, she barged right up to the door of my classroom, bold as brass. "Hey, the new girl, Jiang Wanwan, is the daughter of our maid and driver. Feel free to order her around. Her mother's a housekeeper, so she must be good at everything. She probably even enjoys it." She looked down on me from her high perch, as if I were a slave with no dignity, utterly at her mercy. Amidst the chorus of mocking laughter, I could only clutch my tattered little backpack and shrink into my seat. Yet, my parents were profusely grateful to the Shin family for this, urging me to study hard at this top-tier school with its exceptional resources, but they had no idea. My desk was never for books, but a permanent dumping ground for their trash. Even after class, I got no rest, constantly at the beck and call of these young masters and mistresses. I even had to do homework for them, copying out assignments a dozen times over. For years in elementary school, I tried to shrink into the background, to become invisible in that classroom. In their eyes, poverty is the original sin, and the daughter of a maid and a driver is inherently inferior. Perhaps that's why I envy Shin Yan so much. I was even overjoyed after Shinan said, "How about you become my little sister?" So overjoyed that I lost touch with reality. Now, seeing that I hadn't shown up at school for a month and was even making moves to pack up and leave, the young masters and misses, who usually couldn't wait to leave after school, all crowded around. "Hey, servant, I heard your parents kicked the bucket. Guess you can't even afford school now. Huh, ha 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 ha, don't go. Who's going to copy homework for me if you leave? It's just a couple $100,000 in tuition, right? My family can cover it for you." I packed my things with a blank expression. "Get out of my way." I limped out, only for Shin Yan to block my path in the hallway. "Jiang Wanwan, didn't your parents beg on their knees for this admission spot? You'd really give it up just like that?" When I didn't respond, she seemed to take it as a provocation and shoved me in a fit of rage. My heart lurched, and I had no time to brace myself. The next instant, I lost my balance, and my injured right leg slammed into the ground with a searing, tearing pain. The pain was so intense it left me dazed. I began trembling uncontrollably, my face turning deathly pale. Shin Yan was starting to panic, too. "Hey, play dead if you want, but don't you dare go running to my brother about this, got it?" Just as the words were spoken, Shin Yan's cold, low voice cut through the air. "What's going on here?" Shin Yan immediately ran over and grabbed her brother's arm, saying in a panic, "Nothing happened." She insisted on leaving the school, and we just couldn't talk her out of it. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I used my crutch to stand up, my body covered in a cold sweat. My uncle was still waiting for me at the school gate. I had only taken a few steps when Shin Yan's hand clamped tightly around my wrist. "What's the meaning of this? Where do you think you're going, Jiang Wanwan? You've got some nerve, haven't you? How dare you make a move without my permission? Have you forgotten? Your parents are dead. No one can help you but me." I couldn't help but look up at him. "So, is it because I don't have parents that you feel you can bully me so freely?" I stared at him, unblinking, my heart gripped by an invisible hand. But who would ever choose to be without parents? I didn't want this. I pointed at Shin Yan, who stood there without a shred of remorse. "She's the precious jewel cradled in her family's hands, too delicate to be wronged, so I'm just the one who deserves to be looked down on by all of you. Is that it?" Seeing the fiery intensity in my gaze, Shannon felt a tremor in his heart. His lips parted, but no words came out. "He's the one who took my parents from me." I take a deep breath. I said, "I don't need you." And I meant it. I didn't need you before. I don't need you now. And I never will. So, may I take my leave now, young master? The final two words fell with a heavy thud. I pleaded with him, wishing to have no brother like him. I refused to struggle any longer in this invisible, counterfeit family bond. He wasn't wrong for loving his own sister, nor for believing I had usurped Shin Yan's place. The fault is mine alone. From the very beginning, it was all just wishful thinking on my part. That's why I chose to walk away. So why do you keep coming back to haunt me? Again and again. Shin Yan was like that. And so is her brother. Shannon suddenly felt a tightness in his chest, as if he couldn't catch his breath. He had never found the term young master so grating before. Even though the household staff had used it for over 20 years, he began to miss the way Jiang Wanwan called him Gidge, big brother. Her eyes would always sparkle when she said his name. She craved his approval. So she always went out of her way to please him and cater to his every whim. Yet, Shannon was never satisfied. Every time he heard her call him brother, it only served to remind him, again and again, of his own deceased sister. Gradually, he even began to resent her, even if he knew, Jiang Wanwan hadn't done anything wrong. In fact, over the past 10 years, with Jiang Wanwan by his side, he seemed to have grown accustomed to her presence. His voice caught, forcing him to change the subject. Your leg injury hasn't healed yet. Let me take you home first, we can talk about school later. I flinched away from his touch. No, thank you. I'm just the daughter of a nanny and a driver. I don't belong in your Shin family home, with so many parents and teachers watching. I refused to give him an easy way out. Shannon was visibly annoyed. Are you really going to throw a tantrum in front of me? Jiang Wanwan, I've already given you a chance. If you don't come back with me this time, don't come begging later. My response was to turn my back on him without a moment's hesitation. Shen Yan stuck her tongue out at my retreating figure. Brother, look at her. She doesn't seem to care at all, acting like we're the ones who need her. Shannon, his face dark with anger, took his sister's hand. Since our goodwill isn't wanted here, we're going home. He turned and walked away without a moment's hesitation. Little did he know, for the two who now went their separate ways, this life likely held no chance of a reunion. My uncle and I took the fastest flight back to my mother's hometown, Nanching. On the way, I couldn't help but voice my concern. Uncle, we could have taken the train. The plane tickets are so expensive, and it was business class, no less. Uncle just shook his head. Silly girl. Your brothers started their own business and made a lot of money this year. He spoke, his voice choking up several times. I was thinking, with the Mid-Autumn Festival coming up, I'd come to the capital to see you all, so our family could spend the holiday together. And now, you're the only one we've brought back. On the plane, my uncle chattered away, telling me stories about my mother's childhood. Your mother was capable from a young age. Farming, raising chickens, you name it. She could get things done and had a mind of her own. The bond between that brother and sister is second to none. I've always known how good my uncle was to my mother. Mom said she was only able to attend high school because of my uncle, who would carry sack after sack of rice to sell in town, and rice wasn't worth much at all. My uncle scraped by doing odd jobs for others. He tended the crops in the fields while taking on the hardest labor. This went on for 3 long years. In an era steeped in the belief that sons were superior to daughters, he never once said a girl shouldn't go to school. Even after I got married and had kids of my own, no matter how tough things got, I'd send my mom money every 6 months, worried she might be short on cash but too proud to ask the family. Just thinking about my mom makes me a little emotional. Mom's job at the Shin household kept her very busy, watching her take such meticulous care of Shen Yan. I would always throw a tantrum on purpose, even trying to stop her from going to work. Mom never said a word, but she seemed to understand exactly what was going on in my little head. She pulled me into her arms. Mommy's good girl. Looking after the employer's child is just a job, but you're the flesh of my flesh. No other child could ever compare to you. You're my heart and soul. As she spoke, she couldn't hold back her tears. She knew she had let me down. But she couldn't afford to lose her job and let me go hungry or cold. The moment the plane touched down, I set foot on my mother's homeland for the second time, and tears welled up in my eyes for reasons I couldn't quite name. From this moment on, a brand new life begins. The place where my mother once lived will surely give me the courage to strive for a better life. The air in the south is different from that in the north. A damp, earthy scent lingers among the reeds and grasses. With little streams and graceful arched bridges found everywhere, the village soil was soft and damp after the rain. I didn't mind it. In fact, I found everything rather novel. But when I got back to my uncle's house, I was utterly stunned. I knew my brothers had made money from their startup, but I never imagined they'd made this much. In the entire region, my uncle's family was the only one building a new villa. That very night, a luxury car even pulled up right at our doorstep. 2 tall, long-legged men got out of the car, and I was completely stunned. Jiang Jinran rushed over and gave me a bear hug. So this must be our little sister from Taiwan. You're absolutely adorable. He ruffled my hair vigorously, his eyes filled with tender affection as he looked at me. The other, slightly older brother, though not as exuberantly enthusiastic as Jiang Jinran, was also looking at me with a gentle smile. I quietly let out a sigh of relief, feeling a warm glow in my heart. When I first arrived, I was worried my 2 older brothers wouldn't welcome me, or even see me as a burden. After all, so many years had passed, and we'd only met once when we were very young. Most of my memories of them came from cold, lifeless photographs. Lying in bed at night, clutching my stuffed rabbit, I could hardly believe it was real. I remember how my uncle and my 2 older brothers kept piling food onto my plate at the dinner table. It was then I realized that love and happiness could be something so tangible, so within reach. It felt so surreal that I drifted off and had the sweetest dream, one with my mom and dad in it, to make work and caring for our uncle easier. My eldest brother bought an apartment in the city. I had originally planned to bring my uncle to live with me so I could care for him in his old age, but as he's gotten older, he's always been preoccupied with his land back in the village. Now that I've arrived, and because I need to go to school in the city, my uncle moved without a moment's hesitation. If you're all never home, who's going to look after our little girl? After arriving in the city, I officially began my new life at the new school. Since I had already mastered the material, I skipped a grade and went straight to middle school. I thought I'd be an outcast in the new class, but to my surprise, even though everyone was a bit shy, they were incredibly kind to me. And the teachers looked out for me at every turn. I even became the class monitor for academic affairs because I scored nearly perfect on all subjects in the entrance exam. It suddenly dawned on me. So, after leaving the Shin family and the capital, it turns out it wasn't even raining outside. Just when I was filled with hope, thinking my new life was about to begin, Shannon actually came looking for me. Traveling 1,000 miles, Shannon had never realized time could be so agonizingly slow. In the past, even when he was missing his deceased sister and parents, Jiang Wanwan would always manage to distract him. She'd fill his head with all sorts of trivial things, like how many new songs she'd learned that day, acing an upcoming exam, or getting him to try her latest dessert creation. She took relentless, almost gleeful, delight in pestering him. Even when he was having a rough time at work and in a foul mood, Jiang Wanwan would find a way to cheer him up. She always seemed to know exactly what he liked and disliked. As she grew up, she became an excellent cook, a grade 10 pianist, and an outstanding student, even gaining admission to a highly selective top-tier university. Her excellence attracted many suitors, some of whom came from prominent and wealthy families. Some admirers even went to his office, pleading for his permission to date Jiang Wanwan. Jiang Wanwan had grown up to be the perfect image of the sister he had always imagined, so much so, that when he came to his senses and realized they weren't related by blood, he was utterly furious. She had stolen the life that rightfully belonged to his real sister. Shannon waited a full week, and in that time, he had come to terms with it all. He truly couldn't let go of Wanwan. He would find a way to make Shanyan accept her, even if she harbored greed. Even if she wanted to become a miss of the Shin family, he might not mind anymore. Yet, for a whole week, he hadn't seen hide nor hair of her. He even deliberately checked the surveillance at the villa gate, instructing the security guard to let her in if she showed up. But she never showed up. The hospital said she had already been discharged. The school also said she had withdrawn. It finally dawned on Shannon that she genuinely wanted nothing to do with him anymore. So, when she said she didn't need him that day, it wasn't just an angry outburst after all. Shannon drove to Uncle John's place, intending to bring her back and start a proper life together. He was willing to offer her a way out, but to his utter shock, the moment he mentioned Jiang Wanwan, Uncle Jiang and his wife's expressions instantly darkened. "What are you talking about? Who's Jiang Wanwan? Isn't this child under your care?" Aunt Jiang gave him a shove. "You're not thinking of dumping this child on us, are you? Damn it, my brother-in-law's whole family died saving you. What did you say when they died? You made a solemn promise right there at their graveside to look after Wanwan until she came of age. Don't tell me you're going back on your word now." Her voice grew louder and more shrill, and she even began to wipe away tears. Neighbors and anyone with even a passing connection to the Jiang family had come out, pointing and whispering about him. Everyone was terrified this responsibility would land in their own lap. "We have our own parents to care for and children to raise. Don't you dare think of dumping this responsibility on us. Look at you, all respectable on the outside, running such a big company, yet you won't even take in the child of the person who saved your life, you heartless monster." Shen En's face flushed a deep crimson. He had never in his life been looked down upon and insulted like this. Each crude remark struck him right in the heart. He practically fled in a panic. He had no idea that not a single one of the Jiang family's relatives was willing to accept Jiang Wanwan. No wonder she was so overjoyed when, in their past life, he promised to give her a home and treat her as his own sister. "I thought she was just thrilled to have become the young miss of the Shin group, with a lifetime of luxury and comfort ahead of her." But it turned out the reason was much simpler. She had lost her home. The Shin family hired a new nanny and driver to take care of Shin Yin. Shannon put aside his company duties and lied to Shin Yin, claiming he had to go on a business trip for a while. In reality, He had his assistant book a flight to Nanjing. As far as he knew, Jiang Wanwan, a young woman with no family of her own going to rely on her uncle, was bound to face some disdain. He figured if he just said the right things and brought Wanwan back, she would likely be willing. After all, she was so happy back when he asked Wanwan to call him Big Brother. Shannon came looking for me just as my second brother was picking me up from school. I held his hand and happily told him all about the fun things that happened at school that day, but as we walked out of the school gate, I saw Shannon leaning against his car, seeing me and second brother in a tussle. With an expression on my face more relaxed than ever, his own expression was far from pleasant. Jiang Wanwan, come back with me. Jiang Jinran was thoroughly displeased. Who the hell are you? Why are you calling for my sister? He walked over and took my wrist, forcing himself to be patient. I'm here to take you home. I shook his hand off with some irritation and pointed at my second brother. Can't you see? This is my brother. I already have a home. I had no idea he was such a nuisance. Pestering me over and over again. Where was he during those 10 years I spent desperately trying to win his favor? On the day I died, when I used my last ounce of strength to beg him to stay, where was he then? And when Shen Yan framed me for my leg injury, where was he? I wanted so desperately to build a good home for us, but he never gave it a second thought. He even blamed Shen Yan's death on me, but it was Shen Yan who tried to kill me. He trampled my most sincere heart underfoot and ground it into the dirt, and now he has the nerve to say he wants to take me home. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Someone once said the same thing to me. He knelt before me, promising to give me so much love, to give me a new home, to treat me as his own sister, and guess what happened in the end? He said I was shameless, that the life of a driver and a maid's daughter was worthless to the core. I watched the disbelief in his eyes, and the color draining from his face by the second. A playful impulse suddenly took hold of me. So, who do you think that person is? Shen Yan's feet involuntarily took a step back, his heart began to pound uncontrollably, and his mind seemed to go blank. His lips parted, but no sound came out. A truth surfaced in his mind, and with each new revelation, it felt like a needle was being driven deeper. I, however, smiled. Brother, I never lost my memory. I know everything about you, because, just like you, I got a second chance. This time, you chose to leave me behind, and I chose to start my new life a different way. Truth is, I've long since made my peace with it. I just had this knot of resentment in my chest, and I wanted to be selfish and let it out. You weren't wrong, and neither was I. I suppose we can only blame ourselves. Two people who had each lost their dearest kin, foolishly dreaming that the other could seamlessly become family without a trace of resentment. The truth is, I can never truly be your sister, and you are not my brother. You should go back. Since fate has given us a chance to start over, you should take good care of your sister. I, too, have found a family who loves and cherishes me dearly. It's not too late for either of us. No mistake was ever made. Shen Yan's eyes were rimmed with red as he shook his head involuntarily. It's hard to believe our paths will never cross again. No, that's not it. I genuinely want to bring you home. Brother, we can be a proper family. I've looked into it. Even though your uncle's sons had a successful startup this year, it's just a small company. How can it possibly compare to the Shin Group? In my past life, I didn't take good care of you. If you're willing to come back, I'll host a banquet to formally introduce you as the Shin family's adopted daughter, since I promised your parents I would look after you. I won't go back on my word. Second brother listened to our conversation, utterly confused, but that didn't stop him from wanting to hurry up and take me home for dinner. Otherwise his dad would start nagging again. He put his arm around my shoulder. Stop all that yammering. It's driving me crazy. Wan. Dad's calling us home for dinner. If we're late, I'll be the one who gets it. You'll be fine. But have a heart for your big brother, won't you? As he walked away, he turned back and spat twice. Who the hell are you calling a small-time company? My brothers, and my business is doing just fine. At the very least, we can certainly afford to support my sister. Get the hell back to your hole. You look down on everyone, you snob. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, grabbing my second brother's arm, afraid his hot temper would lead to a fight. I waved to Shannon with an easy, relaxed smile. Goodbye, my brother, from another time. Let's each go our own way in peace. The early autumn wind, carrying a drizzle, held a hint of chill. Some of the leaves had already fallen. Autumn is always the season most deeply associated with the feeling of parting in our textbooks. Holding my second brother's hand, we even ran into my eldest brother on his way home from work. In our uncle's words, we were a new family, and so it is autumn. It is the season when all things grow still, preparing for the renewal of the coming year. Afterward, Shannon returned to the Jing residence alone. The Shin family villa was quiet and empty. Shin Yan had gone out with friends. Sitting alone in the living room, he was suddenly reminded of his past life. Whenever he returned from a business trip, Jiang Wanwan would always personally prepare a bowl of sweet soup for him. She would thoughtfully ask if he was tired, if the trip had gone smoothly, and if anything pleasant had happened along the way. He seemed to have grown accustomed to this feeling upon returning home, occasionally even finding her a bit bothersome, but now, everything felt cold and distant. For a moment, a sense of nostalgia began to stir within him again. Shin Yan was driven home by the chauffeur. The moment she saw him, she rushed over excitedly and held out her hands. "Hey, where's my present?" He was taken aback. Bringing back gifts from business trips had always been Shin Yan's thing. He'd never done it for Jiang Wanwan, a full decade. It was a habit etched into his very muscle memory, so much so that he'd completely forgotten his own sister had already come home. "This trip was a bit rushed, so I didn't have time to get a gift. I'll make it up to you next time, I promise." But Shin Yan wouldn't let it go. "How could you, bro? I already told Qian I'd show her the gift I bought. I even told her it was a limited edition. Now I have nothing to show. She's definitely going to gossip about this to our classmates. Where does that leave my reputation?" Shannon had a headache and unconsciously furrowed his brow. "Be good, Shan Yan. Your brother is very tired right now. Okay, please listen to me. You're being mean to me, brother. I don't like you anymore." Shan Yan ran off, crying and making a fuss. Shannon felt a throbbing pulse at his temples. A wave of profound exhaustion washed over him, and he was inexplicably irritated by the heavy emotion he found himself mired in. Shannon noticed his younger sister was asking for more and more pocket money. On one occasion, she had even gone behind his back to buy a diamond hairpin worth nearly 10 million. The Shin family was wealthy, and her family doted on her. However, they weren't the type of affluent family to spend lavishly. On the contrary, they placed a strong emphasis on frugality. Her monthly allowance was only 10,000. And any expensive items were purchased by her assistant on her behalf. An impulsive purchase like a 10 million yuan diamond accessory was completely unprecedented. Shen En's expression was deadly serious. "Shan Yan, tell me the truth. Did you steal the money?" It was the first time Shen Yan had seen her brother look so grim. She felt both scared and upset. "I didn't steal it." Shannon was so furious he immediately threw something. "You didn't steal it. Then where did you get it? What did mom and dad teach you? You've even learned to lie." Shin Yan was scared into tears, hunching her shoulders and sobbing, no longer daring to hide the truth. "I bought it with the card you gave to Jiang Wanwan. You've never given me that much allowance, so why should she get it? I absolutely forbid it. I just can't stand her." Shannon felt his vision go dark. So it was true. She really hadn't taken the 10 million in compensation. She was exactly as she had claimed. She took nothing from him and owed him nothing in return. Later on, Shin Yan somehow became more and more outrageous. She grew increasingly unruly and rebellious. All that fawning in front of him was just a ploy to get money. He had someone look into her. But to his surprise, the investigation revealed that even at her young age, she had bullied dozens of her classmates. Jiang Wanwan was a prime example. Shin Yan led the charge in ostracizing her at school, making sure everyone knew she was the daughter of a maid and a driver, someone to be ordered around. Now in middle school, she's taken on a bossy, gang leader attitude, spending her days forming cliques and running with a crew. Lately, there are even rumors she's dating the school bully. He had no idea. His little sister was secretly this rotten to the core, nothing like the person he'd imagined. She should have been just like Jiang Wanwan from her past life. He couldn't figure out where things had gone wrong. After starting high school, Shin Yan was 16. The Chung family, to whom she had been betrothed since childhood, came to break off the engagement. Seeing Shin Yan with her hair dyed purple and wearing a crop top, Madame Chung didn't even want to stay a moment longer. The arranged marriage was set by the older generation back in the day. Now that the children are grown, we parents and siblings can't dictate who they marry. It's better to end this engagement now, to avoid the children resenting us in the future. She returned the Shin family's betrothal jade pendant. "I see your Shanyan has found someone at school and doesn't think much of our Yuqian." Shannon knew all too well what his sister had been like over the years and had no face to make excuses. Shin Yan naturally caught the sarcastic undertone in Madame Cheng's words and rolled her eyes outright. "Who on earth would want to be with your son? You really think he's some kind of prize catch? Shameless, Qing Yuqian sat with his legs crossed, so angry he lashed out directly. Who would want a used-up woman like you? There are plenty of decent girls in this world. Who else acts like a tyrant just because their family has a bit of money, like you do? I'd sooner pick a stranger off the street than let a used-up woman like you become my fiancée. The scene of the broken engagement became utterly humiliating. Shannon suddenly felt a wave of disorientation. He remembered how Qing Yuqian had been just as aggressive when Wan died in his previous life. What was different, however, was that Mr. and Mrs. Qing were exceptionally fond of Wan. The knife of time seemed to twist in the wound once more. He felt utterly drained. Shen Yan, I'll arrange your transfer. That boy, you are not to see him again. Shen Yan carelessly spat out her gum. It's none of your business. Who I'm with is my own choice, and you have no right to interfere. Don't you understand the concept of freedom in relationships these days? Why do you have to be so nosy and controlling? He watched Shen Yan's retreating figure. He couldn't understand how things between him and his sister had deteriorated to this point. It shouldn't be like this. It just shouldn't. I've nearly collected 10 plane tickets to South City, all these years. Shannon has secretly gone to see her every single year. Wan's appearance hasn't changed much from her past life. The only real difference was her radiant smile. Her friends always loved being around her. He watched her graduate from middle school and then from high school. She even scored high enough on the National College Entrance Exam to get into the top-tier Tsinghua or Peking University. The moment he learned about her college entrance exam results, an unprecedented surge of joy welled up inside him. He had always believed they would have another chance to meet. If she came to study at Jingshu University, even if just for those 4 years, he would find a way to mend their relationship. He deliberately bought a property near Tsinghua and Peking University so he could have her come live with him. He would show her his sincerity, care for her again, and be her brother once more, but it never happened. The beautiful future he had imagined never came to pass. Wan didn't go to Jingshu University. She gave up her admission to Tsinghua or Peking University and chose Zhongda University, which was closest to Nanjing. Perhaps for her, it's the presence of her dearest family there that makes it a place worth holding on to. Her family treated her very well. Her 2 older brothers doted on her immensely, doing 1,000 times better than he ever did. He watched Wan truly shine at university, excelling in her studies and progressing smoothly with her research projects, earning her postgraduate recommendation early on. She never lacked for suitors. It seems Wan has truly become the brightest star. She also helped her 2 older brothers boost the company's performance again and again. Everyone around her always seemed exceptionally happy. This happiness could have been his, seeing her radiant and cheerful demeanor. A wave of bitterness washed over him. He suddenly felt a strong urge to cry, missing his sister Wan terribly, yet, all he could do was turn and walk away. The plane ascended back into the high sky, and autumn had arrived once again. But the days without you are just too lonely. That's all for today's story. If you've listened this far, please leave a "have a great day" in the comments. Wei Huang wishes everyone happiness every single day.